NASA in Hebrew means be gilded.
I just don't want to say things that aren't.
Are we going?
We're already live. So
we're live.
If you want to say anything, you know, we're already.
What's up, bitches?
What's going on? We're off to a banging professional start here. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fool this fucking computer by making complete asses out of ourselves. They'll never see us coming. If you see us and you think to yourself, Jesus, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. They've got no concept of the theories that they've presented in the description of the title or in the description box below. What are they doing? We're crazy like a fox. We're throwing the computer off our trail. And all you need to know is that we are all highly trained individuals. And though it may seem like we're just talking nonsense, actually your subconscious mind is picking up right now the codes. So just sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and listen to Fractal Truth as he explains to you everything you need to know about sequenced Boaz and the Joaquin Phoenix computer. That's the title, right? That's what we're talking about? Sequenced Boaz and Joaquin Phoenix?
You said Joaquin again.
I thought that's what we were talking about. I thought we were talking about Joaquin Phoenix.
All right.
Joke.
No?
Let's do it.
The Joaquin Phoenix computer? The Joaquin Phoenix computer, you said?
I thought that was the title. That's what I put in the description. Fractal Truth contacted me. He says we're going to do a show.
You didn't add the
and the Joaquin Phoenix computer, right?
We just call it the hair lip
Phoenix
for
is
short.
A basketball player for the New Jersey Nets.
No, he's River Phoenix's little brother who's an actor with a hair lip.
Raised by the children of God. Zen Gardner connections. There's all sorts of things. Fractal Truth. What am I doing? Am I fucking this up already? I thought we were talking about sequence Boaz and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes. Okay, let's do it.
So let's do this.
All right. I'm looking at the live stream. My video's not coming on, but that's fine.
We'll get there.
All right.
Do you have your camera on?
We've done this a lot, and then nothing ever is missing. They always
it's fun. Yeah, you know
it's
what
not
I mean?
live yet.
Okay. All right.
They put us into virtual mind space.
All right, let's do it. So,
because we're only an astral.
Really, just called as a topic of discussion to kind of guide the topic of really simulation theory, the Boaz Jachin computer. These names first come up, as we all know, in the story of Solomon's Temple. 2 copper towers, pillars. And so we can get into, simulation theory, how that relates to these stories or these, this mythology. And I'm glad Ben joined us tonight because we can also, if you type in Boaz Jachin computer in YouTube, you get like 3 videos. You get 2 Jordan Wombles or 3 Jordan Wombles and some one other, So there's not much related to that being reality, or someone doesn't have much knowledge on that, you can just talk about simulation theory. So I'm here as a guest panelist myself. So
he's here as the star. Well, then let's. You know what? That's a good place. So why don't we? That's a good jump off. Ben Stone's with us. First time guest on the CW Chanter channel. I'm happy that he's here. I'm a fan of his output. He's got his own YouTube channel that I don't mind plugging. He's got a very unique take on things. I'm sure we'll have a very spirited conversation. I don't agree with all of his word analysis and all of his conclusions that he draws, but I think that that's going to lead to some spirited conversation and debate. We're going to be able to talk some things. But the one thing that Ben Stone is also doing is that he's taking the lead on trying to preserve the Jordan Womble archives. How are the Jordan Womble archives going? How's that project going?
Well, we do have all of his videos that are up still, but the one problem is with YouTube that once you terminate an account, you can no longer retrieve the videos because they save the hard drive space.
Okay.
Distribute it.
So I got all of his videos MP4'd. I can flash drive them for people, but as for his old accounts that were terminated, I think he had like 4 other accounts that were terminated, but I've been unable to catch any of them. I tried them in the old hard archives. I tried everything. So.
Right. So if anybody at home had mirrored any of that stuff or downloaded any of that stuff for any purpose whatsoever, please get in touch with Ben Stone to help flesh out the archives and complete that. But maybe this is that maybe do you feel comfortable explaining to us or helping us understand Jordan Womble's conception of the? I was joking. We started off on a humorous front. What we're really talking about is the concept of the Boaz computer and the Jachin computer. People are familiar with the Kabbalistic tree of life will know some of these names, and a man named Jordan Womble had a personal mythology built up around them that incorporated his knowledge of and his understanding of Kabbalah, as well as his understanding of what was happening, I guess, on the internet, and with some new theories that he was explaining. I'm not an expert. I was a huge Jordan Womble fan. I definitely check out his videos, and I still watch him to this day. And we, dearly departed, rest in peace, Jordan Womble. Ben, do you mind? Do you feel that you can give us a little thumbnail or a little bit of an analysis of the concept of these devices from Jordan Womble's perspective or Jordan Womble's personal mythology?
Yeah. So Jordan basically came to the conclusion that the box was assimilated Neanderthal brains. It was a Saturnian box, the cube. It's the same cube that is worshipped in the Islamic religion. It's the same cube that the Jews wear on their forehead. The box,
to fill them,
the cube. Yeah, and they can't lie to us. They have to tell us the truth, but they do it in such a way. They do it through movies. They do it through TV shows. They do it through music. And they also do it through video games. If you look at the game Cube, it's the same as the Xbox, right? The black box, the Xbox, X actually means Saturn. So when you're playing the Xbox, you're going into that virtual reality. This is how that whole theory comes into play, that we're all in a virtual reality.
Okay.
Right? And that's mimicking.
Isn't the X also the mark of the beast in a circle?
Yes, it is. The X and the O, right? You got space, you got time and space, right? The X and then the 0, the time and space. Who is the Lord of time and space? That would be Saturn or Satan.
Okay.
Or David Tennant.
Or Kronos.
Or Kronos, yeah.
The God of 1,000 words or 1,000 names. Sorry.
Okay. Ben, we had I'll call you. I keep on calling you Ben Stone because that's your YouTube handle. Is it easier if I just call you Ben?
Yeah, you can do that. Ben's fine.
Whatever you feel most comfortable with. Call you Mr. Stone if you like. Hey man, I'll call you late for dinner.
Call him BB. BB.
That's it. We had an earlier Google Hangout talking about the concept of Saturn. We had all Kendall with us. We had Jack MC with us, and we talked about a lot of these things. And I gotta tell you, I was very skeptical because I'm reading a book. I'm almost 3/4 of the way through David Icke's second to last book, The Perception Deception, where he talks a lot about stuff that you just mentioned: Saturn being X, black and red being associated with Saturn death cults, Islam being associated with Saturn, Judaism being associated with Saturn. And I'm skeptical. And what I always said was, hey, when I get this data, it is always presented as a full stop sentence, like Saturn equals X, no pun intended. But no one's telling me what the historical basis or what the research is that supports that analysis or that conclusion. It's just given as a statement. But how do we know that? How do we know that Saturn equals X? How do we know that all these things represent Saturn or the cube represents Saturn?
Mm-hmm. Well, like Kabbalah, right? All this has to do with math, right? God is within math.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But like I said before, Saturn is the god of time, right? So mathematically, this symbolically, X means times, right?
True.
Okay. So, like I said, Saturn is control of the time. Saturn is the ruler of law.
Extrapolation.
And it's also like the ruler over the physical of of this reality, right?
Yeah. If you look into DMT, right, and the
Dude, I
crystal
want to do that.
and psilocybin mushrooms, it's all the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go to sleep, your brain releases DMT.
Right. I've heard that.
And so if you ever
Isn't it when you die?
It opens up your firewall, and you can get out to other
yeah,
dimensions.
exactly. That's exactly what it does. That's exactly what it does.
That's what all drugs and alcohol do, but some just open up bad firewall ports.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Alcohol again, spirits, right?
so we
Pardon?
have
That's what
we
we
have
call
an,
Different
spirits. Yeah.
vocab.
so we have an idea of like the workings in this plane, in this reality, or whatever you want to call it. What we're all like in on, right? We all wake
Yeah.
up, we all got two eyes, and we're all just, and then and behind that is like this individual thing that we're all experiencing. So that's one thing I wanted to like bring it to the simulation theory is like whenever I think of this, I always for some reason, because I grew up with Nintendo back in like the 80s. So Link, I think of Link. I think of myself as Link. So if I was in the council, if I played a game inside that council as Link, everything that's all the parameters that are already set for that is what Link is thinking of, how he's thinking things, right? If he were to think about his reality. So that's the same with us, you know. So this is to the skeptics that one of their things is, how could all this be computed? Well, you're like Link thinking of his little box inside that reality that has all those constraints on it. So, you know, it's like the bacteria in your gut. It can never get out of the gut. It doesn't know that in California a green pepper was grown and then someone shipped it over, it ate it. You know, Tom Campbell gave that example one time.
Yeah,
so
actually,
we're in it. We're in it, right? Go ahead, sir.
Fish in a pond don't know what's above the water. Same thing.
Unless you build them a glass box, put water in it, and allow them to float up and go.
No, it's
above
more
water.
that they can't know what they can't comprehend it.
So even if we talk about AI, it's only contained within the parameters set forth, and even for the scientists, it's the initial conditions, right? Chaos theory, whatever was initially there, we have to build, or we have that to build upon. So I always say, like back in the dinosaur days, there was a computer, there was a Cadillac, it was there. It just wasn't put together. It wasn't, you know.
Right, and the ideas for that have always been there in the ether or the mass consciousness or whatever you want to call it.
That's like the basically when a lot of people analyze Kabbalah from a sociological or anthropological perspective or philosophical perspective as well, it's put in the school of thought that's generally called Neoplatonic thinking. Back in ancient Greece, Plato, one of the earliest philosophers, was trying to figure out things like, okay, in my day-to-day adventures, I will encounter two different pairs of sandals. They're individual objects. I'll encounter three different dogs who are all distinct from each other. But how do we know, and how do we come to classify those three very distinct things as all being dog? And how do we classify these two distinct pairs of sandals as being the same thing? And he had the concept that in the cosmos, in the upper realms, in the astral, however metaphysical level, that there were these things that came to be known as Platonic forms, that there was one universal thing called chair, and that all chairs were basically a manifestation or variation of that core central concept of an idea. And then during the Renaissance and during the rediscovery of a lot of these ancient texts and teachings that had been somewhat lost, whether you believe that the fire of Alexandria that took out the Library of Alexandria was a metaphor or really happened, people started to think of these things, and in retrospect started to think of these things as being Neoplatonic, because in Kabbalah you have a lot of these same concepts, that there are upper levels where these things are present in a more universal form, and these manifestations are just kind of reflections of them in these lower realms. So it's interesting, you know what I mean? It's
That's
very
a Gnostic. That's kind of a Gnostic viewpoint, though.
Right. Also, I mean, well, look, I mean, all roads lead to
what you were
Rome,
describing was archetypes, though. There's an
archetypes.
Everything. There's a basic chair form.
Right.
Is the archetype, 4 legs and a back and a seat? It's a chair. Now, how that expresses itself, that's what you're kind of describing.
Yeah. I mean, and it gets very nuanced. And it's hard to thumbnail and just bring it in. And some people say, and then you also have the concept of then, people who are working with Kabbalistic magic manipulating reality by not working with the base items that we see around us, but trying to rise above and work with these higher level manifestations or pure forms or incarnations or avatars of them, archetypes, whatever terminology you choose to use.
I think of it more as a method of manipulating your path in the future. So you've got a vector forward that you want to attain, but there are maybe some stumbling blocks. So you would use your magic to help guide synchronicities in your favor.
Right.
And that would be working from a higher dimension. Literally, because or domain, yeah. A different domain, whatever. From outside of this domain, you step aside and look down at it and say, okay, this is my path. Yeah, go. Sorry.
But sorry. No, how can Link? You can bump up against the council, but you can never leave the council.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, but can he? Because you could, if you think of a save state that you could then transfer him to, or you can think of the various iterations of Link as the consoles grow in technological power and computing power. Link goes from a 2-dimensional sprite. He gets fleshed out, eventually turns into, a combination of,
a real acting agent.
Yeah, and then eventually, the concept of virtual reality is Link you either become manifest in the console yourself, performing, these events and these actions in the quote unquote first person. And then what really gets crazy is that if you think about Link's behavior, right? Even if you go back to the classic NES, right? He can go up, he can go down, he can go left, he can go right, he can go, depending on the program, he can go at 8 different directions, but that's it. He's got access to X amount of inventory. He can do certain things. He has 2D.
So how does he get out of the council?
Well, wait. I want to say something here. This is now what would happen if Link then figured out how to become the player or take over your character?
The user?
Yes. If he gained knowledge of the system and was able to manipulate his own programming, but he never gets to there's nothing outside of that console.
Right, but I'm talking about a 2D entity that's inhabiting a 3D entity trying to ascend.
You got it exactly.
3D.
I know, and I wanted to tie this back to the Tree of Life and say that we're looking at the Kleepoff here, I think, trying to make a play.
Has anybody seen the anime Sword Art Online?
I need to watch it and was told to watch it.
By who? Link?
No, a guy named Tyson Tower. He's coming out with an album this year.
It's actually not very good, and there's another one called Log Horizon that's better.
Link is the quintessential hero of the classic NES game called Legend of Zelda.
I had it.
Yeah. But wait, I don't want to lose too much because Jerry was about to take us through some terminology. I know that Ben had said something that basically had some affirmation off of what Jerry was saying. So let's explore that before we move back into the concept of the interaction or the metaphor of Link as being a tool that we can use to see how we interact with our possible virtual reality. I think that's where we're going with it, Fractal, right? And how do we ascend into other dimensions? And also I want to definitely talk about the concept of if there's a connection between us and Link, right? Link is a person with a set of capabilities and a set of things that he can and cannot do within the concepts of the program. when we use link in the program, we're making a conscious connection. We are thinking like our choices of action are not the choices of action that we have in the real world. They're quote unquote Link's choices of actions. We are behaving like Link because that's what the only thing the game will allow.
Think
And
of it more
is there a reverse connection? Like is Link as much playing us, or is the connection a two-way street?
It's more like you're driving
Link.
it. You're driving
Yeah.
Link. You're driving him, and it's not on autopilot. If you're on autopilot, then Link would be driving.
Okay, so you got. So back when I was saying how you guys were talking about the gut, right? Okay,
Yeah.
well the gut,
Yeah.
it's an ancient word that the Germans used to use, and it relates to God, right? So are the parasites or the bacteria in our gut, they can control our tongue, they can control how we taste things, what we go after. They use us just like you guys were saying as Link, as a 2D. Do you understand
Who's
what I'm
utilizing
going?
this?
Yeah. You're saying that the bacteria use us as its vehicle through
Yes. And
this, right?
and not only that, there's a theory going out there that it's actually Archon consciousness.
Mainstream science, has
Which is an
theories
AI
that
consciousness too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could talk about the bacteria in our gut, but what might also be a better analogy is the DNA. I mean, we are just essentially manifestations of a program. A program like I've got I could, some might say objectively, I've got a pretty good brain. I had nothing to do with the manifestation of this brain. I'm somewhat its guardian and protector, but so much of who I think of being me wasn't even created consciously by my folks. It's the DNA that comes together and says, this is gonna come from me. And in many ways, it's the DNA that drives us forward. I mean, just the concept of philosophy that living things have to look around and say, why are we doing this? What is this all for? And yet we keep on still, like replicating. Are we replicating ourselves?
We're the only living beings that really do that. The majority of life on this planet has no concept of that
Right.
self-awareness.
Right.
It's interesting.
That we're aware of.
I mean, the banana is like what? It's like 90% of the same DNA as we do, or something.
A
No,
banana?
but think about it. That awareness is. We would have to be aware that they were aware. So maybe just we're not aware of it.
I think everything's aware.
Yeah. So
when we get to this,
sorry.
Sorry.
So I'm thinking of this. Like we're talking about the gut. We're getting down. We could also then explore upwards, right, and expand out. So think of this. Think of all this. What we're talking about. DNA is a code. So if you think of like that's just computer program. So if
because
they're
programmed.
Yeah, there was
It's
a time.
software.
Okay,
It's software.
think of Newton's time, right? Man had a certain knowledge, and then we say God is in the math, right? So right now I take a basket, right, and I can. In the old days, I would measure it by how many apples went in it, right, and that was true at that time. And then as we gained more knowledge, we measured it, and then we knew that it was 12 inches by 2 and whatever it is. So then that became true. That made the other no less true, but there's more. We know that there's even more than that. So as knowledge, as we go further out, think, okay, Newton's time, we just had and then think about when we got the lens. The lens bent the light, gave us new data from further that we think, but really could just be in the simulation that we opened up another level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then that data came in, and as it's coming in, it's being, whatever you want to say, known. So it's not until you know something that it becomes relevant or the dimension of the basket becomes different, more known.
You also have the
so it's a built-in formulas from the initial settings that there's always going to be, no matter how far we dig, we keep going microscopic hadron collider, go down, 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 down. We will keep finding, and if we go up, 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 out, 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 we keep going. Because think about, if you go up, you're going
fractal.
out, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going down, you're going in.
Infinities.
Yeah, so then it's a circle, and out, and you're going down and in.
Yeah.
So you have to go within to get out.
Yeah.
No.
You got to get in to get out. It's the carpet crawlers.
That's either way. Either way you go, you end up on the opposite side.
Well, what I was thinking of is this concept of nested infinities, in the sense that, given mathematical laws, if we want to say have a map of if we just wanted to draw a straight line, across the east coast of the United States of America, say, for example, you could look at a map of the United States and just draw the line. You could say, well, that's not exactly accurate. You could increase the resolution. Technically, you could
like
increase
shorelines.
the resolution. Yeah, exactly. Increase the resolution infinitely, and you will get into a fractal state. Or if you have a 1 inch line and you say, let's divide it in half, then you can divide each of those lines in half. And given our mathematical concepts, we know that we can do that infinitely. So within 1 inch space, science tells us there is an actual manifest infinity.
They're called infinitesimals.
Yeah, and then the thing is that the other thing is that there's some cosmological philosophies that say that the reason that we exist, the reason that consciousness exists, is that without consciousness, these things, there would be no universe. You have to have a thing that has the ability to manifest higher and higher resolutions of understanding or conception or actualization in order for the universe to even exist. The notion of, does a tree fall, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
I think if
that's a real question. I think you might have to have something there to hear the sound in order for the sound to even exist, even be said to exist.
I think if there is no light, there would be no existence.
We can't know what doesn't render when we're not looking.
Yep.
No, there'd be an existence before there was an eye. There had to be light.
Well, that also goes into the concept of
you look at quantum physics, it has to collapse first.
And then also you get this
concept. This is what I want to say about what you were just talking about I forgot now, what your whole train of thought that you just talked about. What you're describing and everything that they found are only mathematical equations, nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
There's no physical proof of this. This is all theoretical.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind when, there's 10 dimensions because M theory predicts it. Well, it predicts it. It's not been proven yet. Not saying it, it's either valid or invalid. It's just a theory.
Well, but I mean, like, let's take the 1 inch space that we divide in half infinitely. I mean, I understand it's like theoretical, but isn't it, or was there a point at which you could no longer say that the division?
Well, no, those numbers that you're talking about are called infinitesimals, and there's a whole mathematical field studying it.
Yeah, we're not moving. Each one of us is not moving, and the world is like going around you.
Crazy mixed up stuff, man. Have you ever really looked at your hands? So now let me ask you this. So, is the Saturn cube, is it a benign entity? Is it an indifferent entity, or is it morally evil? Is it an agent of destruction that or
it's a mental construct first of all. It's something in our consciousness. It's not like the planet 10 million miles away or anything. I think
I just heard about it today.
To me, I mean, that's how I think of it. It's not something that's controlling us from afar. It's part of us that's controlling us.
Right. Well, yeah, because that's my conception of because even whether it's David Icke or whether it's the Gnostics or whether it's the Buddhist conception of moksha and liberation, everyone has this notion of the most evil except maybe so mainline Christianity that has a concept of an actual hell or an end state where you go to heaven or you go to hell and that's where you are forever. Most people have this conception of all these traps or zones or areas or tide pools as having to be essentially escapable through knowledge, through gnosis of a true understanding of the nature of reality. One would find themselves busted out of the prison. And when you do that, if you think of that, those agents that were formerly standing as prison guards and wardens merely are now seen as symbolic teachers, right? We were waiting for you to wake up and realize you could walk out the front door.
Right, exactly. But no one's waking up because we can't anymore.
We can't?
No.
Why not?
Because we've been under like 15,000 years of dumbing down.
Can I throw a theory?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Let BB talk. Go ahead.
BB Netanyahu. They'll hate that.
So I was a good friend with Jordan, and me and Jordan talked a lot. There's a lot of things that we didn't present on our channels, but one of the theories that was come across was that Jesus. Okay, remember? Have you ever watched Quasi Loomis's channel before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he talks about the unfolded cube, right? Is the cross?
Talks about a lot of things, right? To be fair.
Yeah. Okay, so the unfolded cube is the cross, right? So Jesus had to die on the cross and get nailed to it, unfold the cube, and it was basically a solar solstice ritual killing, where they put the thorns, the crown of thorns, over Jesus's head and then killed him for 3 days. And then what happened was he died for 3 days, went through the Saturn cube, and then busted apart the spell that was over our souls, so we could be saved and we could get out of this reality.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I deal with that, I mean, I'm dealing with I have the same kind of natural barriers to get over that I do with mainline Christianity. It's like, okay, but how do I know that? I mean, that sounds brilliant. It's got a poetic, ring to it. It works and it resonates on a metaphysical level. But how do I know that that's actually true? It's the same thing with how do we know that these archons exist or these Saturn cubes exist at all, or is it just you're saying you got to take on faith? And if we do that, then we open ourselves up to every atheistic and skeptic who says, take it on faith. If you've taken it on faith, you've proven nothing. You've made no logical, or deductive reasoning. You've just come to an assumption that you've decided to pick as a place to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all goldfish in a bowl, right?
Right.
When I was a child, I would sit in church while the preacher would talk. This is a huge church. And I was just sure that if I stood up in the middle of church and screamed out at the top of my lungs, "Computer, end program," that it would work.
Did you try?
Wow.
I never had the guts to do it.
Do you have any concept of like when that idea first gestated, or if you knew where the antecedents would have come from, whether from a movie or TV or literature?
Well, it was Star Trek, obviously, the holodeck.
The holodeck.
Star Trek.
Mm.
The holodeck's broken.
And the holodeck, moves into a lot of this stuff because Star Trek gave us so many of the metaphors that seem to have creeped into modern New Age thinking. Especially, Ben, do you know? I think of sometimes these things. There's a lot of people nowadays making distinctions between their philosophies and what they call New Age bullshit. But a lot of it, like Mark Passio, David Icke, Simon Parks, Stuart Swerdlow, so much of what they're saying and doing, I mean, really, it is part of the New Age. It is New Age reasoning and concepts, but it's almost like a kind of a very kind of almost like Calvinistic dark take on it. You know what I mean? Like, the concept of reincarnation is now like a prison planet, conception, or these things, or the light at the end of the tunnel and your loved ones bringing you towards the light. No, that's how they keep you trapped on planet Earth. And there's always been this concept put forward that the computer is doing it. Do me a favor, guys. I have to step away for a second. I need to take care of something, but I'll leave you with that. You can talk amongst yourselves for a sec.
Well, yeah, I mean that's definitely a theory, is whether or not you should trust the light, but it's more or less, should you trust in Christ, I suppose would be the better question. Is there anybody else here, or did we all just
No, I'm here. I mean,
Fractal Truth here?
as a metaphor, I mean, I look at all these. See, so the atheist is just like, oh, F all that stuff, and so I mean, I'm not a literalist, but I think that man made stories for a reason, and it was to relay information through the generations.
Yeah, I mean the natives were popular for that too, right? They would relate it to nature, and that's just the best way to take stories in.
So I lost. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add to this. My problem with that narrative, anything that has to do with Christ or Christianity, is the fact that Christianity is part of this construct. It's not anything that exists outside of it. So to put your faith in it means you're tying yourself energetically to this construct.
Nope, he cut out again.
I guess I don't see the difference between that and anything else in the construct. I mean, everything we think of is part of this construct.
Well, I would think of it as something that would weigh you down in this dimension. If you're energetically tied to it, there's no way for you to get out of it.
Yeah, but then you could also be stuck in the middle of the road too, right? Which way do you choose? Do you stay in the middle of the road and get hit, or do you go on the left or right side?
Well, I mean, my personal philosophy is there couldn't be any type of hell or anything. So
no, that's all bullshit. Yeah.
Any ideology that promotes that, I mean, I'm not for that,
Well,
yeah.
Okay, so where is this going? That's the real
I'm just saying
question
that, we're in this box, and whatever that is, call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, we're in it, and it has rules, and the people in here who are controlling it or whatever have made up rules on top of those rules, like Christianity, like science, like the education, whatever you want to pick. Those are just part of this construct. They're part of here. So if you want to get out of here, you need to think outside of that box as well and not tie yourself to it. That's my opinion, my philosophy. So I would never
So where are you at now then, Jerry?
I don't know.
So you're
in the middle of the road waiting to be hit by a car.
Well, for me, what I take from that is that we need to get off this planet.
Are we on a planet?
Yes.
I think just the opposite.
Because when you because it can send a radio signal to the other side based on the sunspot cycles.
See, I think just the opposite. I think just the opposite of getting off the planet. Think of it like this: like
you need to go underground with the Agarthans.
No, I mean, and the whole thing about Christ and all this stuff is, and the reason why I mentioned hell is like it's setting up this point to where there's like that we have to do something, or that there's maybe, okay, if the scientists are right, in 1 trillion years the universe will go dark, right? So that's my question: is it seems a little convoluted to tell me that some truth came out of the desert in this one region. I more like want to look at it as a holistic type thing. All peoples had pagan folk religion, and that's why I can't tie myself to anything like that.
Wait,
hey, Jerry. So, Jerry, you listed a number of thought systems that you consider to tie us to this realm, including religion and science and education. Do you consider that there are any thought systems that are not part of the construct? Or do you think it might be inherent to thought itself?
I think it's inherent to thought itself, because I think maybe our collective consciousness was formed inside.
I would say that if
I don't know if we can know it's outside. I don't know. I don't. So
I definitely think you could say that if you're having a full-on salvia experience, that might be considered outside the construct.
Okay,
we don't know who you are.
I would say you're still in the council.
Okay, so if you're talking about like ego death, like that kind of experience.
Well, just you don't know who you are or what you're doing or how you got there.
But you feel, but you're one with the universe, kind of thing, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
But I'm sure
I get
I'm sure
total
everybody is different.
disassociation.
But
Like a total
yeah,
dissociation. Okay.
Sort of.
What was the question? If that's outside, that maybe. I don't know. Did you feel part of a collective, like other people describe, like they're one with God?
No.
I would think that's what I would consider.
And this was a long time ago.
Out of the construct.
This was a long time ago. There was a presence, and it did seem female, which that people reported that before. But I don't know about one with the universe.
Well, God, whatever, the universe, whatever you want to call it, just with something that was loving and it was beautiful and you didn't want to leave.
See, I didn't really have the concept of me. Like there was no leaving or anything like that. I mean,
so it was something completely different.
Yeah. I've never experienced this, so I'm asking questions.
It's sort of hard to explain. It's like you kind of fall down. It's like there's a painting and someone just painted. Like if we look at Thomas's painting,
yep.
Someone throws a bucket of water on it. That's sort of how the world would look. And then next thing you know, you don't know anything.
Oh, you're tripping hard.
You are. You don't remember you've taken anything. Like you don't know anything.
Well,
but there sort of is a presence. There's a lot of unusual visual stuff that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it's almost like, have you ever had that like really euphoric dream where somebody in your dream just told you something that was just absolutely like godly, and then like you wake up and you're like, I gotta write it down, and then by the time you grab the paper, you've already forgot it. That's kind of like what's happening. It's just like you're retaining all this information, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Or is it that your consciousness focus has moved to another dimension?
See, that's what I wonder particularly with salvia.
And I say that especially because of when you wake up, you can't remember what you were dreaming, maybe a tail bit of it, but then you go back to sleep and boom, you're right back in the same dream.
Yeah, that's an unusual thing too.
Yeah, so it's like your focus shifted and then it went back. Like you switched windows.
True. Yeah.
And the other thing that was strange about that particular, with the time when I tried that, it was you could buy it at the gas station. It was legal.
What was it? Oh, salvia.
Salvia. And it had reverse tolerance. Like the first time you would try it, it would kind of cause a body feeling or something like that. And then the more times you tried it, the more intense it would get until you're too afraid to do it.
Yeah, it's like
a natural deterrent. I'm not knocking like doing that or anything like that, but personally, I think it would only make sense that anything to get to some next level could be achieved without any of that. Just
but sometimes you really do need to actually just get to that experience, know it for the short time that you do.
I don't know.
Being a psychonaut is definitely a foolish thing to do, but I'm sure that meditation can take you places, but unfortunately, when you actually scramble your brain, there's really not any way to do that without scrambling your brain.
There's two alternative schools of thought. One of them can be thought of, if we think of personified as the champion Terence McKenna, who basically said at the late 60s and 70s, having experienced LSD, DMT, magic mushrooms, peyote, ayahuasca, et al., said, okay, the slow boat to China is a silly way to go about it. The endless hours of meditation or tapas in a Tibetan monastery or in India and in the Himalayas is foolish in today's day and age, when we can, through the power of these ethogens or whatever he called them, get to those levels almost instantaneously. And then there's other people who say, okay, look, I mean, I've had the opportunity to speak to many different people, and most people who are on this kind of quote unquote spiritual path, the path of meditation, say, no. The slow journey is the journey that lasts, because the chemical can be taken away from you. If you like to trip and you graduate college and all of a sudden find yourself, buttoned down in suburban middle America, and you no longer have access to these door openers, these firewall hacking devices, you're kind of screwed. Whereas if you were to go inside it is always with you. No one can take it from you, and it's a more lasting, more organic, and non-artificial mechanism. There are also people who surmise and say that, look, I know you guys think that dropping LSD is a real gas, that you think ecstasy is so awesome and makes you feel wonderful, but why don't you pay attention to the fact that the people that are that were the original main proponents of gain LSD, that's precognition, LSD into the American bloodstream, were agencies like the CIA. You know what I mean? Spooks are the people that first started.
Were allegedly responsible for the Haight-Ashbury acid and Grateful Dead, all that stuff.
Right, exactly. And then you get to things like ecstasy, and it was a fact that a lot of all of a sudden people were saying, "Oh, isn't it so beautiful that the American military is now experimenting with ecstasy therapy for people who were dealing with things like Gulf War syndrome or post-traumatic stress disorder?" And some people looked at that and said, "That's a beautiful thing that they're opening up to these concepts." And other people said, "No, that's like right out of that's right out of Brave New World."
Well, did you know that now you can actually go for severe depression? You can get ketamine therapy where they just put you in a K-hole.
Nice.
What does
There's
that
mean? There's a clinic in Colorado where instead of like people that would usually have to go and have electroshock therapy to get them out of these horrible depressions, there's a clinic in Colorado. It's like $150, and they give you a dissociative anesthetic. And apparently, I think it induces, I've never done it before, but it supposedly induces the whole ego dissolution thing we were talking about earlier. And people come out of it, like you can go to watch an experience of a patient actually taking therapy change. I mean, she comes out, everything's better. They say it lasts about a month or two for people with the severe depression, and they got to go back and do it again.
What is it about that experience that's so therapeutic?
I think it's more of a chemical thing. I think it actually resets what's wrong with their brain. Because the other way they treat these people is with electroshock.
So everyone on the panel's done psychedelics, right?
Yep.
Is anyone not?
No hands go up.
Okay.
Draw your own conclusions. But I just want to say that if anyone's watching, from any
Jerry is a cop, isn't he?
Organization or association or Alphabet Soup Agency, I just want to say that if I were to acknowledge the fact that I've done psychedelics, it's just because I want to seem cool.
It's satire.
Satire.
Nothing we say is true.
Right.
It's a single word, satire.
The point is, I did acid like 3 times when I was 14, 16, 17, like that in my teens. But I've never looked at the world the same since. And I think, okay, I'll put it in a good sense. I think something unlocks in a kid's brain, or anyone's brain maybe, when they actually trip, a good trip and enjoy it's not a bad trip. I think it changes something in your physiology because you have a different way of thinking than people who... Here's the best way I could think of it is that when you do a really hard trip, you understand that there's more to reality than what you see.
Did you ever talk to anybody, though, that had gone on to continue doing that like a lot?
Yeah, it's not good. You can't
take hundreds and hundreds of hits.
No.
Everything in balance, right?
I haven't. I don't know anyone like that.
You don't know anyone like that?
No. My friends weren't psychonauts or whatever, who just want to take it to the next extreme. They just they tripped for fun, not for inner, vision.
Right. And that's the other thing is that if you're not careful, all of a sudden, like anything, like even like sex, you can become jaded to it. Like you start off doing, these drugs and oh wow, and then you find yourself like, oh, let's drop acid and watch a movie.
That's no fun.
Or something.
My only point about like not needing it or whatever is really you got to think about it. It's got to be accessible to every human, regardless of that, right?
Legal, regulated markets.
I'm saying that 99.9% maybe can't do it without that substance, but it is attainable to all humans. That's just my belief.
Well, the other thing is that like Timothy Leary at one point famously tried to do this thing called the graduations, right? where people would realize that, okay, you've done psychedelics, you've been through that door, it exists, you don't need to keep on doing it, and it can turn into or lead to some some types of addictive like behavior, marijuana or whatever. And there's some point that some people say, like, look, once you've had that experience, once you've opened up the doors of perception, you don't need to keep on doing it. And if at that point you were to start experimenting with things like yoga or, more active or passive forms of meditation, that you would find yourself being able to go there. And really what these drugs do is not show you what they can do for you, but what you actually already have in your body. I mean, if you think about LSD, the fact that it's active at a microgram dosing, is kind of goes like to things like, homeopathics, you know what I mean? It's like, how does such a small amount affect you so greatly? And some people say what it's really doing or what it's working with is what's already there in the wetware of your mind.
Yeah, it's like the mustard seed.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to think about it. I mean, I'll tell you this.
Back to the mind. It's all a construct of our mind. I think of a planet that's just rocks. There's no religion there. There's no morals, and then as things start to, some algae come, this and that. So it's not until we're like talking stars and became conscious, whatever that is. And all this is a construct of the brain, really. So the brain,
things like
seen from the eyes to the supercomputer,
the holographic universe.
It doesn't even have to be holographic. It's just like we're in it, right? So,
well, I remember one of the things Jordan would say is that the computer exists. It exists in physicality, like in the earth somewhere,
unfossified,
as well as.
I don't think it's in the earth. It's outside of the universe. The universe, it's like 13th floor. We're the people inside the computer simulation. It's that kind of construct.
Yeah. And then what really blows people's minds is the notion that the you would be a program as well, right? It's subject to certain mathematical constraints.
Exactly.
Algorithms, And
but you are. I mean, you do everything according to the way you learned how to do it. I mean, there's nothing you do and go, you know how to act and move and do everything. But I want to bring up a quick point about 13th Floor. If anyone's seen that movie, at the end of it, the D'Onofrio character comes up a level, because I forget how it actually happened, but the consciousness of the AI of the sim character, the bartender dude, ends up in the programmer and becomes a serial killer, or he's hunting down the other dude. But that's essentially Link jumping into a controller,
like being John Malkovich.
Exactly. It's the same metaphor that I was bringing up before about you've got the 2D entities coming into the 3D vessels.
So that loops it around back again to, you see all those people wearing the virtual reality glasses now?
They're so fun.
Yeah. See, when you say that, like 2D beings coming into 3D vessels, that just sounds, it's like a nonsensical statement.
But that's why I was relating it to the movie, so that you understand it.
Right. Guess I need to see the movie though.
See.
Okay, so it's basically you've got to.
It's not like Jay plugs it enough.
You have two-dimensional beings walking along a garden hose, right? They can jump up and down. They can walk back and forth across the hose, but they don't know that they can turn sideways and walk around the hose.
No, it's not like that.
They don't know
in this movie in particular, the way the computer simulation worked is it transferred your consciousness into a simulated entity in the game.
Okay.
Another one of the simulation characters, one of the Sims in the game, figured out what was happening and hitched a ride back into a real person.
It's the analogy is if Link was the body of Link was 3D printed, can walk around. It's Westworld.
No, that's the movie called Virtuality with Denzel Washington.
Let's not get hung up on that, because I think.
But that's my point. That the program came up into the person because it was a consciousness transfer, and the simulation treated all beings in it as consciousness entities, so it didn't care which one came back.
And also, what had happened was, I think that there was like two analogies going on at once. Is that the analogy to 13th Floor? It's like Link comes up, but we have to remember that in 13th Floor, what it was is that there was a perfectly simulated reality. So that the perfectly simulated human was essentially human, and therefore could, using the same methodology, the technology that the human got into the computer could get out of the computer and back up, right?
But then, no, but he wasn't human. He was a sim too. That was the whole point of the movie.
But we got to see
it would
the movie.
still be like in the Matrix.
What I remember is that the programmers would get into an EKG machine.
Right.
Be
You're
able to
right.
project themselves in.
Right.
And it's very similar to what Mr. Smith, Agent Smith, did in the Matrix when he escaped the Matrix.
Correct.
Is that
what you're missing is the last scene of the movie when you see them. You see that what you just described is another sim of an upper level.
Right.
Yeah.
They're within another game. You know, they are the game.
Nesting universes.
Yeah. 13th Floor was this. They never thought they would create a simulated reality where the Sims would be smart enough to create their own simulated reality.
Exactly.
Right.
When you talk about that makes
it's
one thing
Rick and Morty.
Can I ask a question
It's
about
Rick and Morty.
the
Everything goes Rick and Morty. Where's Hotels? I'm gonna send him a link.
I know everything about Rick
I get
and Morty.
confused a lot about that stuff with dimensions when it comes to a lot of the New Age channels and stuff, because they always talk about like we live in the third dimension, and they'll say that there's beings in the fifth dimension, like it's a whole nother place.
That's just all in their heads.
Yeah, well, what happens with some of these New Age? See, look, when we talk about this, I call it the New Age diaspora, where I look at things like mystery schools and the teachings of mysticism and the teachings of the East, or even esoteric Gnostic and Christian traditions coming through, and in the 1960s, the zeitgeist being this kind of picking up steam, where all of a sudden a lot of these concepts became fully, born into American and Western culture, and so now things like karma and you know what I mean, don't harsh my mellow man, or just the law of attraction, all these like kind of things that we think of as New Age. Really are, a lot of them are actual ancient spiritual teachings that have just been watered down somewhat, and now have also been commodified by people out there trying to make a buck. So you have people that will talk about the law of attraction, and will have a very there's people who will talk about the law of attraction of a very kind of grounded understanding of what it is, going back to things like the Kabbalistic sense of or idea of forms, or certain.
But I'll hear him talk about these dimensions like constantly.
Well, but where I was going with that is that in much of the same way, what ends up happening nowadays, this is like Michael Shermer's concept of Skeptic Magazine, his concept of woo-woo, where people like Deepak Chopra will be able to learn enough about things that are being talked about, quantum physics, in the popular sense, like the New York Times magazine, the science section, or Omni magazine, or these popular ideas that are explained to people, these very, very high concepts that are explained to people in a kind of dumbed down way, until all of a sudden people are misunderstanding our ability to look at quarks or atoms in isolation in lab environments, and then extrapolating that and then thinking that says something about the atoms that make up you, like locality. Atoms can simultaneously be seen to be both a wave and a.
Yeah, but they don't talk about
that's even real.
That's a living thing could survive.
But that's what I'm saying. But then they get into that notion of then they hear about the quantum physicist explaining about the non-locality of atoms in isolation. They miss the isolation
bullshit out
part.
Of their ass.
Yeah, well they know
extrapolation.
Yeah, they misunderstand, and so all of a sudden then they're saying, okay, if that's the way that it is, then if I think it can happen, or some shit.
Well, yeah. Next thing you know, they're offering quantum singularity healing or something.
That reminds me, guys, I'm offering quantum singularity healing
for
a very small, reasonable price.
Do we have to upload our consciousness to the singularity?
You upload your consciousness to my butthole. That's part of it. That's
where the black hole is.
That's the leap of faith. That's where everyone knows where they keep the Saturn computer. Everyone's trying to sell themselves out as the next coming of Jesus. I'm selling myself as the next coming of the Boaz computer.
Brings
I'll show you
a meaning to the Saturn Moon matrix, doesn't it?
I'll bring you up a sphere. Close your eyes. Make a wish.
That's one big sphere of influence.
I'll tell you. I'll get you and the dog in the bathwater, or whatever the hell we were talking about before. Don't go there. Don't go there. Ask and it all shall be revealed. But no, I mean, look, I mean, these are metaphysical concepts, and are we misunderstanding it? I mean, are we committing the same crimes? Are we are pointing our fingers at these people who are misunderstanding quantum physics? But we're sitting up here talking about the nation that we're living in a simulated reality. We're linked inside the
we don't know jack shit
with the Boaz computer.
Well, here's my question: is even if we understand all this, and even if it is all just metaphor, it's just talk. Where are the action?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, where are the action items for this kind of talk?
Buy Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
Of course, besides buying Bitcoin, I'm not asking for answers. I'm just saying.
Well,
to learn about it is interesting, but is there also?
I would like to know the true nature of reality, and then so then that would be my next question: is then what's after this, right?
Nobody knows, right?
And no one will
Shadow knows.
Or will we know? Will we know eventually? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all going to cross over that great beyond and find out something. Even if it's nothing. I mean, it is an end state. I mean, who knows?
First one out has to come back and tap us on the shoulder.
Sorry to do another movie, but have y'all seen Enter the Void?
No.
That's a pretty good one.
No.
But I'm creeped out by
what happens when you die.
Yeah. I'm creeped out at because the guy that, if I'm not mistaken, the guy who directed Enter the Void also made a movie called what was it? Unbearable. So it was like some crazy movie that was just very Unbreakable. That was just very disturbing.
Unbreakable was by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Oh no, that's not the one then. That's not the one. I'll look it up. Hold on.
Enter the Void was pretty disturbing too.
It was directed by Gaspar Noé.
No, but I mean, to get back to what was asked, like, what can we do about it? I mean, if there is, so even the scientists, we can see there's a formula, for like a sequence of life, how this is formed, how the tree is this and that. So there's obviously some, and we see like what do you call that, similarities and synchronicities. So I think an awareness is one thing. That's the purpose of thinking, right? Self-awareness. So to know is in itself, I think, a noble goal, or want anyway, or whatever.
Well, isn't it just a mystery, and we're never going to know? So shouldn't we then?
No, I saw this one study. I forgot. I was going to look for it and link to it. I'll link after this. Cool. Like they found, it'd be like it was described as, okay, you got a TV screen. There's so many pixels, so you can't have a half a pixel, and you can't go over.
Yeah.
Right. So you can bump up against that limitation. And
that's the problem with CERN. That's what they're doing.
What do you mean?
Well, that's what like the LHC is doing. They're trying to get down to that smallest particle.
Right.
Trying to see what is there, and what they're finding is nothing.
Because
they're hitting the quantum field.
Yep.
Yeah. Because ultimately they have to look at it, right? They have to observe it, and that's what collapses it.
Correct. It collapses the wave function.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's crazy. That's what I mean. Like, science, truly, I mean, life
science is a religion.
It's crazy, man. Everything's so crazy. Especially when you have no idea what's going on, like me.
No, I use them as the devil's advocate, to say, okay, for the skeptic, that it's not even explained, it's not certain. Back to the basket thing. I mean, there's always going to be new knowledge and new ways to look at it. So you think you know it right now? Guess what? You don't.
Right, and it's always going to change based on everyone's perception of reality, because it's a mass consciousness driven reality system.
Yeah, so now that we know that, like, isn't the whole point to act?
Yes, but in unison, which is difficult because we've been divided for so many years.
So then it's all about acting as consensus networks.
Well, it might be also be that the fact that we are acting as a consensus network, whether or not we experience it or not. So here's the concept. Here's a concept that, God or source or infinite life or infinite energy desiring the experience of individuation subdivides. But given that all of those subdivisions are technically acting in unison, right? That even though there's the illusion of disparity and separateness, really all is one. Right? Think about this. If I were to draw a completely accurate map of the universe, right? A completely accurate map of the universe, I would have to take into account all atoms, molecules, living things, and non-sentient objects, right? They would all be the universe, right?
A part of the object.
I mean, you can draw a map without doing that.
What did you say?
I mean, you could draw an accurate map of the universe without taking account for everything.
But a perfectly accurate map of the universe. A perfectly accurate.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by
would
perfectly accurate.
Would have a one-to-one relationship with all things perfectly measured out, even if it was just a snapshot.
But it's not possible because we haven't observed the entire universe.
But
if you did that, you would have created your own universe. Would have made a copy.
No. Well, listen. Let's take it one step at a time. The universe. Even if we don't draw the map, if the concept of the universe, the word universe describes a thing, right?
Yep.
The totality of things within this universe, and all those things. So contained within that idea, that concept, an accurate description of that concept or an accurate conception of that concept would be contain everything in its right place. It would contain everything. It would account for every atom and molecule that exists within the universe is part of the universe by definition, right?
Yes.
Like, to simplify it, the United States of America has 50 states, right? You might be in Nebraska, you might be in New Jersey, you might be in South Dakota. You're all in fucking America, right? If you're within one of these 50 states, by definition. So, that even though there's subdivision, the subdivision ramps up to a defined totality or whole. So much in the same way that we might think of ourselves as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different individuals in our individual places in space and time, really we're all part of one thing. It's just at what level do you analyze the breakdown, right?
Like the shoreline.
Yeah, or like the cells in the body or the organ systems, you know what I mean? Contained within C.W. Chanter is also a nervous system, a pulmonary system, a cardiovascular system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they're all part of one concept, one thing, C.W. Chanter. Right? Do you follow me? Does that play?
Yep.
Get me, you know what I mean? Make sense?
The shoreline of the self.
That's it. Fractals, man. Subdivisions.
Fractals, man. Let's all take acid on air.
There's an idea that C.W. Chanter, the cosmic man, is actually a microcosmic replica of the universe at large. If you wanted your map of the cosmos, what you do would be to look inside your own body and mind structure.
Right, it's all that.
Yeah, I think we get back to circles, man.
That's what I think space is a three-dimensional expression of that inner space, of our inner
consciousness. The human body.
No, of that inner space that Rhizome was just talking about.
Right. It's all 1 point.
To what degree does this going out and the Hubble telescope and devising telescopes of higher and higher resolution, both in the macro scale of looking out into the universe as well as the micro scale of looking in, to what degree is that an active meditation of self-discovery?
I'll just say this about the Hubble Space Telescope. I don't know that it exists, but I do know, and I've done the math myself, that if it is where they say it should suffer from orbital decay and crash into the planet in about 3 years from when it was launched, which was a while ago.
Yeah, the space shuttle goes up there and works on it.
The space shuttle hasn't run in years, and the Hubble has no propulsion mechanism of its own. It's in orbit, allegedly, and it just floats out there. And if that's true, at the distance it is, which I don't recall right now, it would suffer from orbital decay, and it should be like negative 2,000 feet below sea, or 2,000 feet below sea level right now.
Because it fell in the ocean.
It actually is going to run out. They've been doing upgrades to it every few years, and it actually is done in a couple years.
But how do you know that?
That was like 10 years ago, dude. I'm just saying.
No,
you're saying
you can
that
go
like
look up
you know
the You can look up the current missions now. You think that's just all lies?
There's no space shuttle missions now. There haven't been for years.
They've been launching spacecraft from the space pad down in Florida. They're constantly doing it.
To fix the hull?
Yeah, to work on. They just did an upgrade package.
Fake news.
Dude, Earth is flat.
That was like 10 years ago, dude. I didn't say
no,
that.
dude, look it up.
I will.
Thunderdome.
I don't want to argue.
I'm
I'm
not
pretty sure the
yanking
last
your
shuttle
chain.
mission was 2011. But
No, they have. You're correct. They have not used the space shuttle to upgrade Hubble in a while. Not since
and the
they stopped
space
using
station doesn't move.
Well, they've been launching private spacecraft. How do you think they get astronauts back and forth from the space station? I mean, there's spacecraft.
I don't believe there is a space station.
You can look at it with a telescope.
You could look at something. You could look at a fucking light in the sky with a telescope.
Yeah. Well, no, this goes to essential questions of how do we know what we know. I mean, the problem, the thing with flat Earth is you can have two reactions to flat Earth. You could say these dumb dummies, what a bunch of schmoes, or you can look at it as symptomatic of a problem, which is this: essentially, people are smart enough now to realize how little we know and how much we take on faith. So once you explain to people. Yeah.
Let me tell you something about flat Earth. I never took it. I always took the stance you just said. And the biggest thing I always would say was, they have the survey, the guys that do the surveying of all the whole country got these big towers, and they do triangulation to make all the survey maps. And there was a guy that did a whole flat Earth debunking based on the survey readings from all these towers to show the curvature of the Earth. Well, a flat Earther survey guy. Well, actually, there's been a flat Earther who has done a complete rebuttal to that, and it was just geniusly written. It was hilarious. I don't necessarily believe in the flat Earth, but
right.
I've seen it's pretty interesting what people can do with.
Did the rebuttal prove anything?
Yeah, I got
one. No, it didn't. It was questioning things, and it was typical flat Earth argument. But
here's the only thing I have a problem with the flat Earth. I don't know what shape it is. I don't think it fucking matters. It doesn't matter.
But here's the question: is the reaction is this that you can understand that it's symptomatic of a world? We talk about even the concept of fake news. We have gone through in 2017. 2017 is the year of ultimate doubt, where no one believes anything anymore on faith. Once we've taught ourselves that we were foolish for believing in the desert sky god that they were telling us about in church and synagogue and mosque and temple. Once we realize that, we look around and use those same new lessons to look at the other guys in funny white outfits and say, oh, yeah, you come to me, you print the paper, Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you come and you say all these things to me. And because you're the scientist and not the man of faith, that I'm supposed to just believe you. I've never seen a fucking atom. I've never seen a molecule of DNA. You tell me that that's what exists. You tell me that there's missing links, that there's that we can account for everything in the fossil record.
I've seen Saturn's rings.
Do you know?
9 times out of 10, when an evolutionary biologist looks at a fossil, they'll say, and we could tell this, but this, and it's like two pieces of bone floating off over here, a tooth, and a skull or whatever.
Do you know that no dinosaur skull, whole dinosaur skull, has ever been found?
I don't know that, and I don't not know that.
I've heard this. I mean, I haven't researched it myself.
Well, some of the transitional human skeletons they've put together have been pretty crazy. How they'll find a tooth and they come up with a whole skeleton.
I mean, and I'm not saying there's a conspiracy there. I'm just saying
there's no
trying they're trying too hard. How's that?
I mean, I think space. With the simple telescope, you can see that there's space.
You can see lights. That's all you can see.
Dude, you can see Saturn's rings with the 60-power hunting scope.
But what is it? It's just a light.
So the question is, am I serious?
I don't think it's a marionette.
I don't know.
And then once you learn about how radio waves work and how a radio telescope works,
I understand how they work.
If it's a simulation, then it would all be mathematics.
And then compare it to how a gas chromatograph works. Do you trust a gas chromatograph?
You're trusting data given to you by a computer. not.
Yeah, with the gas chromatograph, you can
It's
do
all
verifiable.
Hold on,
you can
hold
do
on,
verifiable experiments.
Yes, you can. You can say this is throwing off oxygen or nitrogen and blah blah blah. I understand that.
So if we concentrate on the minutia of the details, we still don't escape the biggest question, which is this: is that look, if we're living, if the technology exists to create a perfectly simulated universe, and then we have then lost the ability to know and define whether or not we live in a simulated universe or the quote unquote actual first universe or real or quote unquote real universe. Then it asks fundamental questions: if the simulated universe is indistinguishable from the first universe, to what degree does it matter at all? And to what degree is it all just the nested simulations, all part of quote unquote the real world? You know what I mean? These are philosophical questions that people have been, what is the nature of mind? What is the nature of consciousness? What is the nature of existence? I mean, you could say, here's the thing. You say, oh, the gas chronometer says whatever it says. The telescope shows us this. If we are living in a simulated universe, right, it will tell us whatever it wants to tell us to keep the whole game going. Now, some people would say that that's reductio ad absurdum, that I'm being overly skeptical to a ridiculous and illogical degree. But that line of reasoning that says that I'm being illogical or stupid is really just scientists and people who use rational reasoning and logic. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I like logic and reason. I think we should use it. But like the unfalsifiable argument. The unfalsifiable argument is boo-hooed and pushed aside by the skeptic or the atheist or the scientist.
Well, required.
Them doing that has nothing to do with whether or not the unfalsifiable claim is true or not true. All they're saying is that logic and reasoning can't prove or disprove it. Therefore, if they've got faith in logic and reasoning, they won't explore the unfalsifiable because there's no quote-unquote point to do it. But there may or may not be a point to do it using logic and reasoning, but that doesn't mean to say that the unfalsifiable thing doesn't exist.
Well, what about the notion that living beings have a bullshit radar to some extent?
They might have a reverse bullshit radar. They might have a radar built into them that creates bullshit.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Right? We see waves and particles, and we put that together in our brain. I mean,
I mean like a sixth sense kind of thing.
That whole line of thinking is a logical scientific type approach, right? And so even they would say,
sounds like it, right?
Based on quantum physics or whatever, it's a 50-50 chance,
right?
Whether also, I think question it couldn't be said, completely that's just irrational. It's 50-50. How could it be irrational if it's 50-50?
Isn't it required in order for something to become like a law of science to be falsifiable? Isn't that one of the tenets of the acceptance policy?
Because if it's not falsifiable, it's not worth exploring with the tools of science, right?
Right, because it can't be proved, it can't be falsified. It's worthless.
There's no point. But that's not to say that's just they give up on it, and then what ends up happening is that all the people who are so proud of themselves for being wise, for being atheists,
the crux of the matter is.
And I have the same question, about the falsifiable argument for the spinning globe model.
Yeah, I was about to say that just because it's falsifiable, that doesn't amount to equals truth. I mean,
it does in the eyes of science. That's what we're saying.
It does in like my basket analogy. Until you know that next level of detail, that yes, that's true.
Bro, my knowledge is next level. Whoa.
We woke,
okay, well, let's say one of us was an astronaut, though. I mean, you're not going to believe them any more than if they're a scientist, right?
No.
Like saying, I've been up there and watched the Earth spinning and flown around it.
You
have to do that. You would have to do that yourself, right?
Wait, are you a Freemason?
But think about it this way. The real issue is this: is that no matter what, the brain in the jar philosophical argument, there is no ability for us to really say and understand that there's an objective world around us. That's what led to, in the initial phases of philosophical exploration, which was in its own way a form of psychonautry or whatever, if you want to call it that. You had a school of thought called Solipsism that basically said that the individual can never know of anything that exists outside of the frame of reference of the individual. There's nothing that I can see that I don't see with my eyes. There's nothing that I don't experience as an audio sensation that I don't come through the ear. So there's no way that I can tell. And then working into modern parlance and philosophy, first it was called brain in the jar, now it's often called the matrix. There's nothing that I can do that says that Ben and DJ and Fractal and Jerry and Rhizome and Thomas aren't just projections of my own mind, right? That I'm fantasizing you guys.
Well, we are really.
We are. A lot of that does go on,
even
though.
in science. Right. I mean, you heard of computer generated images. We're brain generated images.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing, is that if you look at when they look at the actual resolution of the human eye and speed of nerve synapses, the vast majority of what we conceive of as the moving world around us is put together by our brain. It's
the anti-itch cream. Makes it stop itching.
It's all crazy.
It's probably the dog hair.
It's like watching
get under the covers. Like, this has dog hair all over it. That's why you're itching.
Ben was trying to talk like about 6 times, and we talked over him. I want to hear what the dude has to say.
No, you don't.
I kind of do.
I'll do a plug right now. Ben Stone. Go to YouTube.
Yep.
All right.
I'll
check out your shit.
But a lot of but a lot of it's like things that are just drawn off the. I don't want to get to check out the stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but a lot of it's stuff like it's like I have the same issue with sometimes with what Ben does that I find very entertaining. But it's like David Icke. This means this, and if the bottom of the shoe is called the soul, so you're walking on your soul, and you're the earth.
It's like Congress. It's called Congress because they never have progress.
It's like
Maxwell sexual act of fucking you because Congress is called sexual Congress, right?
Well, and, isn't that just the artificial intelligence like
admiralty law? It's like Jordan Maxwell stuff. That's interesting and entertaining, but might not actually have to do with the actual etymology of words. You know what I mean? Who knows? Explore.
It's been my experience that actual etymology is always far more disappointing.
Oh, it actually is. But then
I think all that shit is just a form of NLP to hook you into buying their crap. It really is. It doesn't have any. I mean, maybe it has some deeper meaning, but it's
all about that paper.
Well, even Noam Chomsky just wants you to buy his book.
Exactly.
Well,
I said this the other night. All mind control programs came out of advertising and propaganda kind of shit from the Nazis.
Oh. Wait, but I mean, not necessarily the Nazis. I mean, it was
or the Germans. Whatever.
No. Well, people think that it's also. It's like think about this. There's a concept called parallel thinking. If you come up like 13th Floor in the Matrix. Let's look at these 2 movies as an example. Did the authors of 13th Floor rip off the Matrix? Did the authors of the Matrix rip off the authors of 13th Floor? Did they both rip off? Well, no. But did they rip off Grant Morrison, or did Grant Morrison rip off Aleister Crowley, or did Aleister Crowley say things? The point is,
right.
We could say things like, "Oh, it all came from here, it came from there." This parallel thinking. I mean, the Germans, the Japanese, and the Americans were all working on the nuclear A-bomb at the same time, utilizing the exact same tools and going in the same direction. Just one person put the fucking punch. You know what I mean? Who wins?
There's the pretty cool series on Netflix about supposedly Norway was like stalling heavy water production for Germany.
Heavy water. Don't get started on heavy water.
What is heavy water?
Don't say it. Don't say heavy water.
Heavy water is water with an extra hydrogen atom, right?
Yeah, they had this power plant in Norway where they had it set up there where they could make it.
Is this the one that was driven by waves?
By waves? No, it was in a huge mountain complex.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fishy at all.
Well, all these stories are concept. Well, but that's what's going back to the notion of the flat earth and fake news. We're at a point now where no one can tell you definitively. We all have assumptions. We all make assumptions, pulling the world together and defining it by our own terms. But one man's flat earth is another man's globe. And one man's fake news is another man's accurate information. There's no trust anymore. That we have no faith in.
Well, there's Twitter.
The only thing that
9 out of 10 people believe what they see on Twitter.
The only thing that you can trust.
Did you know that 90% of all statistics are made up? That's what they say. They.
That's
Well,
have you ever seen?
talking about stuff being global ideas, whatever you just call that.
Right.
There have been a plethora of podcasts in the last 2 weeks about this very subject. That who can we trust? There's nothing that we could go to as a reliable source anymore for any kind of information,
except for the Bitcoin blockchain.
But there's nothing stored there, dude.
I think YouTube can be reliable in some ways.
Your faith in the blockchain is amazing, but still, the blockchain is a theory in of itself. It's totally theoretical, and you've been told.
It's not. No, it's not theoretical. It's physical and in production. It's not a fake thing.
Exactly.
Wait. Hold on.
The blockchain is real.
Tell me that. No. Hold on, Jerry. Slow down. Right. Follow this. Moments ago, you were telling us that you had fundamental lack of faith in the curvature of the Earth, the existence of space, and the data that's coming off the Hubble telescope. But Bitcoin blockchain is the bee's knees. It's solid. Solid gold can't be sold.
I didn't say that. What I said before was that I question these things like space and the curve because I can observe them differently than other people. So I question them. I don't know what they are. As far as Bitcoin, I've used Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. I've used the blockchain. I know the technology works. I use it in my job to store things. We're going to store contracts and things like that in a blockchain type of software. So I know it exists. I know it works. It's a real technology.
But you're.
Do you think that kind of situation would look different to like a professional, space scientist? They'd be able to have better data on space than you do?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know, you work with computers, so you can see it from the inside, but you're not a professional, space scientist. So
right, but my only argument with that would be that where are they getting this data from?
The blockchain.
No, forget the blockchain. The blockchain's just a thing.
Well, from the black hole chain. It's the black cube chain.
There is a website where you can get the hard data from the Hubble radio telescope.
Is it in a blockchain? Because if it's not in a blockchain, fuck it. It could be falsified.
You could convert it to blockchain.
It's all coming out of one source. That's what I'm saying.
Hey,
not a decentralized source.
So you're right. So there's only one source, one life in the whole cosmos.
Hey, hang on. Let's take this.
NASA is our one source for information. Please.
If you get a ham radio license, you can control satellites with radio waves. There's actually a lot of satellites up there that are open to the public to use if you have the right license.
And what do you need line of sight?
Yeah, you'd have to have line of sight, but then once you connect with one, you can talk to all the other ones.
And then what happens?
Well, you'll have data. I mean, you can get data that would tell you the shape of the planet.
How come you never see any satellites from the ISS live feed? Or stars, for that matter?
Because they're all inside your mind.
Because the ISS is lower than the satellite, most satellites.
How about stars?
Because
shut you. Because
the feed's pointing at Earth.
Because DJ doesn't mean that there's not an explanation. I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
I know what the explanation is.
They don't have it. No, he's right. There is not a live camera pointing at space, and I've wondered about that one myself.
Well, because they can't, because there is no fucking space. It's in a pool in Florida. That's where that's all filmed on a green screen. You see little.
You really believe that, Jerry?
I do, because you see the fucking bubbles all the time, and people go, "Oh, it's a UFO." No, it's a bubble.
The bubbles?
They're in a scuba tank. I think a lot of the ISS. Yes, they do thousands of hours of training in a pool, which is all filmed.
When I look up at the night sky and I see space, I'm not seeing space.
I don't know what we're seeing.
Right. Well, why is it more plausible
why did Galileo seem to know
in a pool rather than it actually being out there like it looks like it would be?
Because it just seems so unbelievable.
From what?
Why?
Because we get to see either the inside with people doing stuff. We either get to see that one shot outside, or we get to see rockets launching.
I think
that's it.
If
you never get to see.
If we could ask somebody, I think the real answer is that it's so freaking expensive they can't afford to put another camera up there.
Are you kidding me? There's a fucking 4K camera on every iPhone out there right now. They can't afford one.
Yeah, Jesus, D.
Yeah, but
on,
you would have.
on.
You can't just.
Come on.
You
Don't
can't
be a
just duct,
shithead.
have you seen how NASA works? You can't just duct tape stuff to the station.
Whatever. I have.
Everything
look,
has to be like.
I don't want to argue
authorized
about
by
it. It
Congress.
doesn't
No. But like,
It doesn't
Well,
matter
that's
to
what
me
I'm
whether or not it's there. I think it's a charade.
That's fine. That's fine. But Jay, what
No,
I will
hang
say
on. I want to
is that-
apologize if I was being argumentative.
No. But I
You
will
weren't.
say
You
that-
weren't. I just.
this
I
is
don't
Jerry.
have enough information to argue good points on these. I just have personal opinions on things I've observed personally.
No, listen, believe you me, and I play devil's advocate myself, but I will say I've been in enough hangouts to know with you. There's what I call the Jerry threshold level, where you reach a point with Jerry, and he's good, and then all of a sudden, I'm not arguing with you.
My buzz wore off. That's why. My buzz wore off. No, I don't want to argue about it because I don't have enough knowledge. It just seems.
But I think the teachable moment is that you've got a certain degree of mastery of computer science, and still you understand and acknowledge that there's so many things that we take on faith, and the rote skeptic is going to come up here and he's going to go, yeah, right, that's what's happening. You think the Earth is flat? You think that space is an illusion? Okay, dumb. But at the same time, that guy is just thinking that he knows everything.
I don't think it's an illusion. I think it's misdescribed to us. That's what I believe.
We don't know. I mean, my take on it is I know that I have faith. I know that I have faith in modern science and that in the quote unquote consensus reality to a degree, though I know and understand that consensus reality has got problems, and and people are subject to illusion, especially, and delusion, especially operating or thought of on the mass scale. Do you know what I mean? People can misunderstand things, misinterpret things. You've the multitude of religious conceptions, and they're self-contradictory. So clearly, someone's wrong, right? You know what I mean?
I just also want to say,
what do we know? How do we know what we know?
Right, and I'm also open to the fact that space is real, and it's been created by us mathematically defining it.
Like Minecraft, kind of. It's generated.
It's more like coming up with those equations is like programming the matrix, the construct. By coming up with the equations to define that space, it defines itself because the equations work. That's one way to look at it too. So that's why I say I don't know, because I don't know. It could be either way. It could be real. It could be a construct. It could be both.
Right.
Outside of our solar system, it could just be a fucking wall, or it's Shell Beach out there.
Well, the sun's doing some crazy stuff to us. Whatever it is up there that is doing that.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as the sun.
Whatever it is.
There's no such thing as the sun.
Cliff High says it's a
whatever causes these spikes in radiation and magnetic fields, like.
Have you seen the gamma radiation that's been hitting the planet?
Yeah.
No.
It's really
related to
just
the Lake Project.
If we didn't have our little shield called the magnetosphere, we would be dead.
Without using math, I can deduce, all these things. That's not really all that much of a leap. Science.
Deduce what things?
Yeah, what things?
Expanding universe and planets and stuff. I mean, space.
But haven't you been taught and told, and isn't your the solidity of your understanding of your knowledge of the universe, like it's impossible for us to say why we think we don't really analyze why we think what we think.
Well, no, I mean the sun and the moon tell me.
Well, here's an interesting thing. If the moon rotated on an axis, that would make the argument a lot different, wouldn't it?
Eclipse basically tell me that the Earth is round and night and day, and
the eclipses are kind of
the sun and all that stuff. That kind of I don't even have to move on past that.
But we don't know that that's just not a shadow of something else. I mean, it's hard to tell where the moon is.
That's way. That just, to me, that takes an unnecessary leap.
But look, I agree. That is a very good observation. I never thought of that, and that's very true. It would,
because only a sphere will make the shadow.
Well, no, a circle would make it too. A disc.
It wouldn't. Not from all angles. A disc would not work.
A disc would work if it was flat.
but the sun, you have to be able to do it at all different angles. Like if you get a flashlight and a CD,
if it was in the right position if the sun was behind a disk,
that's correct, from that one position.
Yeah, right. And if everyone was distributed upon it to a point where they couldn't, it could be a convex disk too. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way out. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, the way out is Commonwealth chanting.
I'm looking at all the other sides of that argument. What could explain it?
Yeah. And then that's the thing is that, look, I mean, it's like the concept of if we were in the universe controlled by a cold and indifferent God, just even assume a spherical Earth, but assume a spherical Earth that's in isolation, right? There's God, and he's got his magic ball that he likes to play with. And if he were to want people to believe that there was a sun and a moon, the painting around us would behave and replicate the data necessary so that the people on planet Earth looking up would say, oh, yeah, no, and here's why I could prove that the Earth is not flat, because if it was flat, the sun's shadow wouldn't work in these ways, or the moon's the eclipses wouldn't work in these ways. But because we could see these mathematical numerical equations, and because we can extrapolate them from them X, Y, and Z, we know that we're a planet that is circling a sun, and it's got other planets in the solar system, some of which have moons. Some of those moons behave in these conventional ways, and some of these moons are outliers like our moon. But there's nothing to say that we're not still on God's magic ball, seeing what he's painted on the outside of the screen, or what he or she projects on the outside of the screen, or what we imagine to be happening on the outside of the screen.
Or the other thing too is it could be a hypercube or a fourth dimensional type of shape that we can't comprehend.
I tend to think that the universe really is that big, and that we're just not that important. Like you say, cold and indifferent. I think that's just you think we're that important, you know.
Well, that's the science.
You can look at that from both sides of the equation. Yeah, you can say you are important or you're not important.
So both are true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And not true.
So check this out on the notion. So on the notion of us being important, we have things like this. Let's think about it this way: the Fermi paradox. The fact that we don't see Dyson spheres out in the universe around us. There are certain things that people say that we should be experiencing and encountering around us based on the potential age of the universe and how long it's taken life on Earth to develop to this point of advancement, right? This point of evolution. But the fact of the matter is we don't look out and hear radio waves of clearly understandable, definable civilizations or ancient aliens. You know what I mean? We haven't.
Well, supposedly we did.
Maybe not. But for the most part, these paradoxes hold true. The same thing with the simulated theory universe. The fact of the matter is that just because the simulation theory says that it's more likely than not that we're in a simulated reality rather than the original reality, that doesn't change the fact that of the possible realities, one of the realities that we could be occupying is God's first little babies, right? We could be the beginning, and we could be the first intelligent life in the universe. We could be, based on observable things. All evidence says that we haven't ruled out that we're not, but there's no evidence that says that there's anything else that contradicts that we're the first guys to figure out thinking and logic and reasoning and trying to escape the surface of a planet, right? Just like a mother's first baby. We might be the first bad boys out that chute. We might be the first bad boys out of this womb.
Well, I mean, there's also the Neanderthals too, right?
Well, listen, I mean that's the other thing is that the fact that those guys got kicked out so early. Think about it this way. Think about
you're talking about here on Earth, right?
Right. Like if the concept of multiple births, or the fact of the absorption of a phantom twin or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of things start off and don't make it. The majority of sea turtles that get born on the beach don't make it to the water, right?
1 in 1,000.
1 in 1,000. So just like that, look at all the aliens are amongst us. I mean, there were different types of humans. There were other life tried other possibilities of the kick, and they just didn't happen. And I always regret it. And if we ever get to Jurassic Park level of technology, fuck the dinosaurs. Let's bring those little the Hobbit people and the Neanderthals back, right? Wouldn't that be kick ass if there were other types of humans? I think that'd be awesome.
And yeah, we could rent them out to people.
Why?
They do.
Sicko. We could rent them out to people. They're people.
Party.
What? Oh my God!
It's a job.
Thomas, you're a weirdo. You just went total fucking freak house on us. What are you, midget tosser? What are you doing, man? Come on now. Where's your brain at? Random.
Dude, the reality show. That's what it would be. I would totally pay some amount of money to rent or subscribe to a show where we're bringing back some other Hobbit species.
Listen, they could fill a lot of movie parts. You know what I mean?
Well, we could do it.
The only thing about that...
What'd you say?
So, like, that's renting people out.
Well, listen, we all rent each other out to a lesser, greater degree, right? We all use each other. We all have agendas and means and ends. Or
exactly.
Wow. Now I'm depressed. You know what I mean? That was so sad. We saw the edge of the universe, all these possibilities you ended up with. We're all bought and sold. We're all for rent.
Yeah, but then they get rich because they go viral.
Oh, that's right. They're dead.
No, listen. If this is a simulation, then that would be the ultimate purpose, right? Is to no. The other way is just in the ground, back to the soil, back to the earth explodes or whatever, the sun explodes. So
in the meantime, we get in that paper.
Get that paper, all that good stuff. It's all frozen. It's all frozen energy, folks.
Stacking them blockchains.
Consciousness.
That's right. It's all, it's the value that we ascribe to it. Ones and zeros in a computer, whether it's in a blockchain or whatever. The value of the blockchain, the value of those ones and zeros is ascribed to it by us, by our consensus conception of reality. We are told. You know what I mean? If I could say there's a Bitcoin is $8 billion of Bitcoin because I say so, I'm crushed by consensus reality, right? I can't make it happen. But somehow the collective, it all comes together and aggregates to one agreement upon its value at any given point in time.
Do you think it'll ever reach 5,000?
Yeah. It has to go to 10,000 for mining to continue to be sustainable in like 2020. But what
if it's not sustainable?
Therefore,
there's a limited number of Bitcoins.
I won't be able to buy one.
You can buy one now.
You don't have to buy them whole. You can buy increments. It's digital and binary. You
can buy you can invest in a percentage of a Bitcoin.
You can buy You can buy points.
8 decimal points.
Yeah, 8 decimal points.
So when you do that, do you become like part owners of one individual coin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like a club? Like, do you get together? Do you have to decide together whether or not you sell it or not? You know what I mean?
No, you don't. It's not part of one coin. It just represents a part that's reserved.
Yeah.
So the difference would be with the Federal Reserve, they could print money, but there's not tied to gold or anything.
Right.
When Bitcoins are sold, there's a limited number of Bitcoins, and everything that's bought and sold is tied one-to-one back to a real, tangible, virtual asset.
But like, what if, like, so say I invest in 1/8 of a Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So I own Bitcoin number 00011.
No,
it doesn't work that way. It's not like pennies have fucking serial numbers on them.
So then, what the fuck is this thing?
It's virtual currency. Did you ever buy gold in a game?
Yes.
And that's it. That's Bitcoin.
But backed by energy use, alchemy, and proof of work, and security and cryptographics and math.
It's based on what it costs to run a computer.
Hold on.
It's a virtual currency.
Yeah. Okay. Listen.
Who was smart enough to buy it when
it's the currency of the computer?
Smart enough to buy it. These idiots might be there might be some Japanese dude saying these fucking fuckers are still buying this shit. Listen, check this out. No. Listen, I might be coming at it from stupid, but let's go through it slowly. Help me grow as a person. Okay.
Okay.
You just told me that I could own a percentage of a Bitcoin.
Yes.
So here's my concept. I am CW Chanter, and I have some experience in the stock market. I have some experience in investment banking. I understand the concept of volatile markets. I understand the concept of speculative investing. I've come to learn about this thing called Bitcoin. I decided to tell my broker, or decide myself, that I'm going to invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It turns out that I don't have enough. They tell me I don't have enough capital to buy a Bitcoin. Or what if I were to say,
bullshit.
so for example, they say to me now, okay, Bitcoin is now at 500. That means an individual Bitcoin is worth $500, right?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So if I had $500, I could buy one Bitcoin.
Yes, you could buy the number one.
Okay. And
you
then
could buy 1.00000 Bitcoins. You need to think of it like a hedge fund.
Okay.
You can buy a percentage of a share. It's the same concept. There's a concept right there.
The thing you have to remember is that just because I made the analogy of me being a speculative investor who understands the concept of stocks and dividends doesn't mean I actually do.
Do you have a 401k?
Hey, would it help
Yeah,
if you actually bought a
Okay,
Bitcoin?
wait.
That's a side
Do you
job.
have any money in funds in a 401k?
Yeah.
Get it out.
Yes, you do.
My plan is
Right.
what's
Okay.
that
So
investing?
what? So Bitcoin would be one share in that fund, and you
Okay.
buying 10.6 shares is the same as buying 10.6 Bitcoin.
Let's
Same
go.
Right.
analogy.
But that fund,
Except there's a limited number, which is
There's a
21 million.
There's a limited number of shares in the fund. It's the same exact thing.
The funds have managers who are actually making decisions about the actual stocks and bonds that they are
And
buying.
Bitcoin has speculators.
No, it has miners, speculators, and it has miners and speculators.
There's no hedging. Okay, so the Bitcoin futures market and the commodity market, if you will, is not set up for hedging like the financial and commodity markets of New York. Okay, they're not there for hedging, which is a financial function in a business, which I won't get into. But that's why they were initially set up to hedge risk.
Stand still.
The speculation then came in, and that's where the gambling aspect comes in. Bitcoin just has speculation, and there's no financial instrumental use of it.
Yes.
Right.
And
it's the mining that takes up that.
Where is it? It's the most.
That balances off the speculation.
Reach your mic, man. We can hear you talking to your kid, bro.
Yeah.
Tell him I say hi.
Sorry, he's having like allergic reaction here.
Just mute.
No, take care of that.
Is he okay?
He'll be fine.
It's just the skin. It's not his throat.
Oh,
Okay.
Cool. It's the not having the financial side of it to like the hedge side to balance the speculation in Bitcoin. They have the mining, which balances it. So it's not going to go crazy, but it is very volatile. Does that make sense?
And it's volatile because it's still small. Once the market is really big, it's not going to be that volatile because the percentage of trading is going to be smaller.
Why?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, okay.
I don't know. I haven't read into the future of Bitcoin that much.
Thomas,
yeah.
Say I want to buy that painting that you're working on for Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins are you going to charge me for that painting?
I don't fucking know. Let's just say 300.
300 Bitcoins.
$300.
But how does a Bitcoin get back into $1?
So what I would do is I'd open up my phone, I'd go to CoinDesk, and I would say $300. What's that in Bitcoin? And it's going to be let's say 3, and I'm going to say, okay, so you're going to send me 0.3 Bitcoin. I'm going to send you this painting. There needs to be an escrow service. Like the markets need to actually create a way for me to do that, like easily. But how I would do it now is, as I'm putting this in the mail and going to you, and like we're talking, and we're like, yeah, okay, you're dropping this off at FedEx. All's good. I get the Bitcoin, and now I have the money, and the painting's on its way to you.
But how does that work if part of that Bitcoin that I have is, they said I had a percentage of the Bitcoin? Oh, you're saying that you would be selling to me in the percentage.
It really doesn't matter. Anything can be money. Shells, Federal Reserve notes, Bitcoin.
My dick.
It's an exchange for time and goods and.
My biggest concern with Bitcoin is whether or not it will stick around, or if there's going to be a more secure one that comes and replaces it. Don't they have a few alternatives?
There's like over 600 coins on the market, but here's the thing: where Bitcoin is also a protocol. It's a language like TCP with the internet. So that protocol makes Facebook, YouTube, all of these like layers of websites exist on top of it. What's happening now, which will more likely happen this year, is the network will adopt segregated witness and the Lightning Network. That's complicated stuff, but what that means is that a second layer is going to be built on top of the Bitcoin network. So the Bitcoin network is going to settle transactions still, and will have an increase in the amount of transactions that can be settled per block. And what the Lightning Network is going to do is it's going to create the system where, say, I want to send money to you, Ben.
Right. Which Ben?
Basically, Ben.
Okay.
Basically, what we could do is we could create a payment channel where a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of nodes all agree, send promises to pay each other Bitcoin, but the only transaction that is settled on the Bitcoin network is the first and the last transaction. And that records end state. And so what that's going to do is allow for a lot more transactions per second. Because with
the way money was created, fiat currency, they didn't have to transfer gold to silver.
No. But here's the difference. The difference is that Bitcoin, a rare asset, are still being traded. You're still getting your Bitcoin at the end of the day. So there could be,
but you're not transferring as much data, is what you're saying, right? Or
yeah. That's what I'm saying is you're able to fit more transactions into the blockchain by creating payment channels where at the end of the day 100,000 transactions are settled.
Okay, that was my biggest concern. Now you're saying that the Bitcoins will actually become more of a commodity because now they have more. How would you say?
More transactions can happen, which means more use. There will be more uses for it.
Yeah.
And the transaction fees will be smaller. Because instead of paying $2 for one transaction, you're paying $2 for 1,000 transactions.
That makes sense.
So here's a question: what's if you're going to just like put some money in Bitcoin? How much do you put in it?
As much as you're willing to lose, and as much as you understand the technology.
What becomes a significant amount of Bitcoin? So, like, just a number.
It depends on why you're buying it. If you're speculating, then think of it as a stock purchase. If you're buying it to use for currency, then you don't care what the cost is because you're going to.
What about just for diversification?
As much as you're willing to lose, but I use it as a political protest of the system. Therefore, all of the money that I have is in Bitcoin.
Serious. But no, let me ask you this question. This was posed in chat. It might be the simplest question, but I think it makes sense. Look, if the electrical grid goes, the internet is a technology built by DARPA, right? If they shut it down, if they shut down the internet, right? Bitcoin goes away. Your Bitcoin totally goes away.
Well, no, because the blockchain still exists. No, the blockchain still exists on servers all around the world.
If the internet shut down, there'd be armed insurrection that day.
Yeah. So you're talking. First off, the Bitcoin blockchain still exists, but it becomes a lot harder to use. But it still exists, and it can be picked up again in different places around the planet, because more likely than not, the internet's not going down in every single country all around the world all at the same time.
By the way, the GOP is trying to repeal net neutrality laws.
And I think we'll get around that.
If you look at Bitcoin is like going down, right? And like in a microscope, think of that for like currency. It would just be like the internet now with speed and all this stuff. It just seems like it's just the next iteration of how we are gonna exchange.
What I'd be worried about is if
we have to worry about the internet. See, we have the internet, and what is getting in our way now is a payment system. We have fast chat and everything's fast. We need to have
almost every payment system in every retail shop relies on the internet. If it's not a phone direct.
Yeah, but it's still got that card and it's connected to a bank and it's all that.
That's one thing, but still
I mean, ultimately, right now, Bitcoin is too, right? We have to buy Bitcoins and Federal Reserve notes.
It's no different than a credit card.
But once you can accumulate them by like Thomas said, selling his paintings.
You can.
So
that's work. I will offer a 20% discount on everything and my services if you pay me in Bitcoin, because it's just that much easier to accept.
Wait, which services exactly?
I was gonna say. First, you just got invited to so many gangbangs.
Will you do moose stuff?
That's it.
I hear your notifications dinging.
Introduce you to the whole block.
I'm humbled.
I just think that you got a kind chin.
No, thank you.
He looks like a cuddler.
Kind my balls would fit nicely on.
How much for this conversation?
Chestnuts. Chestnuts and dick in your mouth.
Oh, yikes.
Just reminds me how much we need to have a girl in here every now and then.
I know.
Right?
That's what they say in prison all the time. Hey, listen. Hey, guys, I don't know if the conversation is wrapping up. If we want to take a break, if we want to say goodbye, we can keep on going. It certainly doesn't matter to me. Just if some people are feeling tired, they want to break out of the conversation, that's great. If people want to keep on going, we can go for a little bit while longer, or just feeling it out.
This is a good place for us to actually get back on topic.
Yeah. Yep.
We're talking about Bitcoin.
No, but I mean back to the computer. I think the main question that we've arrived at is, okay, what is the point of
right? Well, it also, if we talk about our faith in Bitcoin and our faith in these ones and zeros, how far off is it to know and understand that these computers may be as much responsible for our experiences as anything else, and may they not be actually, like, our conception of the computers being a new invention that just might be based on our ignorance regarding the age of the universe and who's calling the shots and where life started in this particular solar system, if at all. I don't know.
But then I just want to think, okay, the question, what is the point? Is that even maybe valid? That's like, I don't know if it's proper English to say not to do something, like, I'm not going to drink. You can't, like, say you're not going to actually do a non-action, you know what I mean? Or
because the brain is still registering what you're saying without the negative.
Well, I mean, it matters because it's like life. That's why, I mean, I was like, okay, am I, like, always, I don't want to say happy, like at a birthday party happy, but at least content, because I mean consciousness, right? I mean, that's what we have. We have thought. So, I mean, you have that. So that's the bottom line. And so to question, like, I think it's fine to question ultimate reality. That's what people with God, they're doing, or science, they're doing.
Right.
So if
are they though? Are they really questioning that? I don't think a lot of religious people actually, they seek religion because they want answers, and then they say, oh, they give up and say, oh, it's God's will or this or that, and they kind of give up.
We all do that though. We all do that because no one knows. Right?
I haven't given up yet.
I'm not saying you give up, but
Right.
By saying that you kind of know maybe that's not true, right? That's kind of saying you know something.
Well, it's like the philosophical school of existentialism. The concept being that life is bereft of inherent meaning. The meaning that our lives have and our existence has is the meaning that we give to it. And when I was, a young philosophy student, in my college days, uh, I used to get into fights with one particular professor all the time because I would kind of always kind of naturally go to what the philosophers that I defined as existentialists, like Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, people who were essentially atheists. And he would always, tell me that the existential question didn't begin with the atheists, that Soren Kierkegaard, who was absolutely a Christian, was one of the fathers of existentialism, and that there were many, Jewish existentialist philosophers whose concept and conception of the meaning of life, even the lack of inherent meaning in life, also explored whether or not that was contradictory to the belief in God. Do you know what I mean? Then you also get into things like, even if God doesn't exist, is he worth believing in? Because if there is no God, if we truly are, life is bereft of inherent meaning and purpose, and we are just biological entities, then our wonderful brains we can use to imagine whatever we want to imagine. And who's to say what is right and what is wrong if there is no God to contradict?
That's a poor side of, that's only one aspect of what it could be. There are other explanations. It's like saying, a vote for Trump or not voting is a vote for Trump, my dad would say to me.
Right.
It's the same argument. Oh, well, if it's not that, then there's nothing. We fuck it.
Well,
it's not either or.
Right. I mean, the lack of inherent meaning could have meaning, because the state of affairs that says that, there's a fill in the blank portion could be what's necessary.
Oh,
reductionism is bad, and it's a paradox.
For it being, just maybe for the devil's advocate of it being,
Let's go back to Link.
To what?
To Link.
How does Link get off the NES?
He goes into the consciousness of the operator.
Right. So
like the bartender in the 13th floor.
Right. So is there a natural bridge if I am interacting with, say I'm interacting with, a virtual reality girlfriend. There's a great new program for all the lonely boys on the block. It's called Virtual Reality Girlfriend. You put on your virtual reality shades or whatever, your teledildonic devices, and you're going to interact with a living, breathing, or what seems to be a living, breathing entity, but which actually is a learning program. And what the program learns is what you are into and what you like.
Or a teaching program.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go.
Yo, isn't that just like that movie Her featuring Joaquin Phoenix?
Actually, it's closer to those kind of.
Phoenix.
Okay, so I'll say those sex bots are coming.
Don't have sex with robots.
Whatever. It's not a judgment. I don't give a shit. The point is, if that's true, that the only real, you will only get like a real sexual experience if there's some kind of drug enhancement thing with it, right? And they're starting to talk about this now, especially because people are getting virtual reality sickness, which is a whole different. I don't want to get into that. But what I wanted to say is that this is exactly the scenario of a comic from the 80s that was made into a TV miniseries called Wild Palms.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, with Jim Belushi. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I remember William Gibson's walk on roll. This is William Gibson. Hi, I'm William Gibson. Peace.
I met William.
Wild Palms Harry.
Wild Palms Harry. I don't remember. I'm gonna try and find a copy of it again, but I remember that
have it
show.
on DVD.
Do you really? That's wild.
Yeah.
Palms.
Yeah. Good
no, anyway, but that's exactly what you're talking about. Wild Palms.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so I was going to bring it back to the subject. Not that wasn't part of the subject, but I was just looking through here, some side searches when you, because Boaz and Jachin is kind of like two, the Egyptian or the Hebrew type.
What's the difference?
Right.
I think all of the shit is all Egyptian and just repackaged.
Well, no, you got in Indian philosophies, you got Maya, which is the illusion. And then I was looking at some other hypothesis on the simulation. It was like the 5-minute hypothesis?
What is that?
It's like the universe sprang into existence 5 minutes ago from nothing, with human memory and all other signs of history included.
And the singularity is tomorrow at 3.
There was a CERN scientist before they turned on, I think, do you remember late last year they switched to using lead ions instead of hadron ions in their experiments? Oh, you guys might not follow CERN.
How could you forget?
But this is
I'll never forget where I was when they switched from hydrogen ions to lead ions.
But this is all the computer tricking you, or maybe leading you into a circle always, right? So what was the ending of the Matrix? Zion was actually a simulation within a simulation, right? For the descent, for those who wanted to go against the simulation or the Matrix.
I did not get that out of the ending.
Well, it gets a little bit. I mean, at the end. Look, I mean, it's like where you call the end, because there's some problems with. There's some people that they say that there's some fundamental weaknesses with the second and third movies that makes it more philosophically intelligible and understandable if you just stick to the one movie. But then there's some people that say that the real hero of the Matrix movies wasn't Neo at all. It was Agent Smith, right?
Yeah, no, this is all from that. I watched this one on Film Theory or whatever.
Yeah.
Channel. So, yeah, that Agent Smith was the one. But that's I got that even aside from that. Like when he was in The Architect, like they say it's the 6th time or whatever, and so that's what there's the anomaly are the people. There's always going to be, and that's what they do here, controlled opposition, right? So there's going to be a certain amount of people who are going to dissent.
Right.
So how will you just? How about you just have them so they have their area to vent and think that they're doing something, but in a controlled way. So that's what I got out of it.
And look, I mean, there can be direct analogies to like the truther movement or conspiracy theory, right? It's you've broken through the myth of illusion, but you just come to another set of unresolvable problems and paradoxes. And I guess the real philosophical point to remember is always this: is that when Neo is popped out of the Matrix by Morpheus and he wakes up on the ship, all that's changed is the dictates of the reality that people are telling him exist. His seeing, hearing, feeling, existing within a 3-dimensional space, moving around as a human being, it's indistinguishable from the Matrix. So there's no reason to say or to assume that he's actually left the Matrix at all. And then when you get into the second and third movie, where you see him do things like stopping the squid with his own hand, they're like, how do you do that? And the concept of because you're still in the fucking Matrix, dude.
Yeah, the whole thing is in the
Matrix. Why did he throw up when they unplugged him?
What'd you say?
Remember in the first movie how they were saying you're a battery or something, and then he got on this, and then he threw up. Why did he throw up?
Simulation sickness.
Yeah.
His presumed.
It's an interesting way to look at it, though. I agree.
His presumed assumptions about what his body would do in a state of shock, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna pop.
Which was explored on Fringe.
Yep.
Right. Everybody falls their first time. Don't read too much into it.
So I remember reading that the Wachowskis based that on the that book Simulacrum and Simulacra.
Yeah, by
Simulacrum and Simulacra by Jean Baudrillard.
Yes.
Look at this guy.
Thank you. I actually have a copy. I have a copy on my mantle. Just haven't read it.
That's it. That's how you get laid in college, right? Keep a copy of that shit around.
I just bought
Cohen's greatest hits.
I have that, but I bought the book last year.
Didn't one of the Wachowskis become a girl?
Both of them did.
Did they really? Both of them made the switch?
Yeah.
And it is not convincing at all.
No.
Change in government.
Let's not get into there because it's like, hey, look, I mean, if you want to be a girl, you want to be a girl. That's it for some people. You know, convincing, not convincing. I've
Go-
seen some.
I think it's unfair for some when they show these people that have millions of dollars doing it versus people that are poor. You know.
Right.
Well, again, what that is poor. Poor makes everything like that.
The fact of the matter is that there are plenty of traps out there who have invested nothing in anything, no technology, no silicone, nothing more than Maybelline, mascara, and what they were able to shoplift from CVS. So there's all sorts of people in the world living all sorts of wonderful lives. And hey, if the Wachowski brothers are both happy, God bless them. You know what I mean? Hey, what are you gonna do? The Matrix.
Who are these? What was it? Buffer Brothers? The guys who did Stranger Things. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Stranger Things is one of those things that to me I was singularly unimpressed by it. It really was like nothing to me. It was like, remember the 80s? Here you go. It went nowhere, it did nothing, had no inner cohesion.
And here's Matthew Modine to reinforce the 80s nostalgia.
Absolutely. It was just ridiculous.
And we'll never underestimate the power of a good soundtrack.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, just FYI, Lana Wachowski was Larry, and Lily Wachowski was Andy.
So that's got to be a head trip. So I wonder if you're the first one that went through the Matrix. If you turn to your new sister and say, you can't let me do anything, right? You got to be on my jack about all this shit, right?
I guess.
I would guess their journey is probably a lot different than most trans people.
There you go. And I still haven't seen anything that they've done since the Matrix movies. I haven't even seen Racer X or Speed Racer.
They did a show called Sense8 on Netflix that was actually pretty good.
I watched the first season. It was good.
There was only one season.
No, they have a new 123-minute version.
It was like a Christmas special, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. And the new show OA is pretty interesting. And,
I'm halfway through that.
Oh, you want to hear a new show? I started watching the show called Travelers on.
I finished that
on Netflix. That is interesting. These are people.
Travelers is good.
People from the future are transferring their consciousness into people who are about to die in the past.
Yep.
And form groups that go around and save lives or something. I've only got 3 episodes in.
There was a true story. I heard.
They're trying to change a horrible event from happening.
Yeah, but you don't know what it is yet, right?
Travelers is good.
Don't tell me.
There you go.
Anyway, the other one is this one called Timeless, which is really weird, but it's interesting. I don't know where it's from. But it's these 3 people, a historian, a coder, and an army dude who have access to a time machine and are chasing a dude who stole a time machine through time to stop him from changing history.
That's fun.
When was that made? I think I've seen that movie.
It's last October.
What's that one called?
Timeless. One word, Timeless.
Okay. Is it on Netflix?
No.
Oh.
It's on.
You have to buy it with Bitcoin.
No, you have to get a torrent for it.
Well, fuck that shit.
Look for the torrent.
That's it.
I really don't know.
Figured out torrent. Maybe that's why I can't make the jump to Bitcoin.
I have no idea where it came from. Bitcoin, here's a good analogy. Bitcoin is a lot like BitTorrent, where
it is.
Everyone kind of has a part of the transaction. So, it proves what happened in Bitcoin. It proves that transactions occur between 2 people because multiple people have copies of pieces of it. Just like in BitTorrent, you have multiple people have multiple copies of pieces of files.
And you just
every miner is securing those transactions between the network. So every miner has the entire chain's history current.
So a miner is akin to a BitTorrent tracker. So you as a client would say, ping, who's got this? And it would tell you, okay, you got all these IPs that have a piece. So you ping all them. Same thing with Bitcoin when you're trying to discover transactions. It's actually, I think, really close. The way they wrote it, it's the same kind of technology, that peer-to-peer network thing.
There you go.
I wonder if you could develop that into a medical records system.
A lot of people are.
There's already, I think, 3 companies that I've seen that have public blockchain APIs where they maintain the blockchain. They give you an API to read and write from it, and they keep the blockchain up to date with your transactions.
Yeah. So let's do this, because here's what I think happens. Some things get some things work as an analogy, and sometimes the analogy, like the matrix itself, can absorb you, and we can get lost. Let's get off Bitcoin. If we want to have anything about the simulation theory, simulated reality, or how it relates to the possible existence of the Boaz or Jachin computers, I think that would make more sense. And if not, maybe we would want to phase it out just to make sure that we have a solid presentation that works and have some legs moving into the future.
So what about those holograms that were shown at CES 2017?
Now there you go. So now here's where it gets really, really zany. Do you know what I mean? Because we're at the point now we were talking about things like fake news or reproducible or trickable realities. I mean, it sounds like essentially we're there. I mean, we just had the famous appearance by the what was the hologram? The Tupac Shakur hologram at
it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, was it 10 years ago? Time fucking flies. I thought it was yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but I thought it was like a year or 2 years ago.
I'll find out, but I thought it was a while ago.
Might have been. Well, you know what I think? I think about 2002, and I was like, oh yeah, that was just like, a little while ago. And then I was like, no, asshole, that was 14 years ago. You know what I mean? People have come and gone. You know what I mean? Technologies have risen, and countries have come and gone since that time existed.
Yeah, but
it was 2012. 2012.
Holograms are still a simulation within the simulation.
Now let's do this.
So I guess if we're looking for proof, or we're looking for like correlation
Quantum field would be proof.
Yeah, I mean, so it describes what these so these are pillars, right? And so the idea these are made of copper, right? And bronze, some say.
They were bronze pillars with a copper top.
So we could say that this maybe was the first computer, the physical representation of the computer.
So what is this?
So the two pillars that stood outside the door of Solomon's temple.
Think about a computer. If a computer had a place that it runs each routine, right? So if Saturn's running a routine, all these things. So these are points in a location on a drive or whatever. Okay. So we could look at it like that. I just saw an interesting quote on the Wikipedia. So the Chaldeans broke up the bronze columns of the house of the Lord. This is when it was destroyed at the first temple, right? So these are metaphors or myths brought down to tell us something, right? It may not be actual, like there was this person, this did happen or something. So it could be a metaphor of some real reality. Maybe there was we're always thinking King Solomon, there's a slab and there's this all primitive stuff. Like I brought up before, there could be a lot of things in history and add on 100,000 years,
Right.
all that could be gone.
Fractal.
Yeah.
How would you react to the idea that you say the pillars are made out of copper or perhaps bronze? If copper is the sacred metal of the planet Venus, would that mean anything to you in this context?
Yeah, that's what I want to get into and delve into. And then I see, so the Chaldeans, they're from Iraq, right? And there's a hadith in Islam, I can't find it right now, about Iraq and about things that are happening. And it's almost as if the CIA read this and
what is a hadith?
Built up ISIS and did the whole thing. That
it's like a verse of the verse of the, I can't remember.
It's a saying of the prophet, and so there's going to be the Mahdi or something like that is going to come out of here, right? And so you look at Abu Bakr Baghdad, he started the caliph there, right? So there's all kinds of things that you're kind of seeing that maybe we can relate to a story, a narrative being brought about or transpiring before us.
Is it one that's repeating? Is the question I have.
there's that, and also if we're talking about the notion of them now having the holograms, it's this notion of they could know that these stories are within the collective unconscious, and there could be an active manipulation. I remember when I was growing up, one of the big conspiracies was this notion of Project Bluebeam, where they were going to use holographic technology to fake the second coming of Christ to dupe everyone, something to do. It always seemed to like everything had something to do with the formation of the New World Order.
And the current story with that, though, is that too many people heard about Werner von Braun's deathbed confession about the alien invasion, so now it's going to be an alien Jesus second coming invasion.
That's still a simulation in a simulation, though.
I understand that, but it's it's still funny.
The Neanderthals, they supposedly built this, right? So what do we know about them? I mean, we had this timeline. I'm into like questioning like the timeline. It's almost, see, you know why we can all get here right now and all have different theories and different ideas and oh yeah, this and that. It's because we're kind of like the truth is hidden. It's like
out there.
It's there, but we have to, you know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, let's look at this way. Here's one way to analyze the situation. Like we all know the concept of ancient aliens, and especially the Ancient Aliens TV show. And here's the notion: is that there's some people who say if you read these verses from these ancient texts, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Bible, the Quran, they'll say, you know, they describe this mystical experience, and for hundreds of years or thousands of years, we thought that what was being described here was the actions of God or gods. Really, if you think about it, this could be a perfect description of a UFO landing, or this could be a perfect description of an alien utilizing high-tech computer equipment, and that being observed by people who didn't understand the equipment, so they described it in magical terms. That's a possibility. And the other thing you could look about it, and like you said, with the notion of drawing parallels between these ancient stories, myths, or legends, and what's happening today is, number one, you know, humans might just be creatures of habit, you know, or also just, you know, it just might be that like a reflection, you know what I mean? The mirror of the past mirrors the future in some way, and there has to be some sort of natural correlating endpoints to balance each other out. You know,
this is what my idea of infinity is the moment. Forget about mathematical anything. Yeah. So that history that's happened is actually now, right? The only thing that is this moment.
That could be true.
And that is an accumulation of what has happened. So it's all within the existence right now, what happened, and we're all like trying to reach back. And it's been, you know, screwed with. And so I want to get, so we're all stuck in either you're a scientist or you're this, or you believe in this or this and that. And we always go back. And then I think like the discussion of aliens is kind of like a side thing that's still, you know, of this.
It's a distraction.
Aliens are your side girl.
Aliens are distraction from reality.
It's your side girl.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a lot of the conspiracy behind it. I'm not saying that there's not aliens.
Oh yeah, if the universe is what they say, they'd be stupid to think that there isn't life out there somewhere.
Right. But I'm just saying a lot of the.
But aliens aren't the theory you marry.
I don't think there's any here. Like I do not think the Roswell was like aliens crashing.
I think there's enough. I think there's enough on this Earth that is unknown. Let's start with this, and that's what I'm almost convinced to the point. Like science has actually brought me back a bit. You know, I've been reaching for the stars this whole time, and now, like you mentioned, the Fermi paradox, and then just what they're saying about the universe, right? Okay, well, we can't get out of our local group, so that kind of brings me back home. You know, to Earth. And so I think there's a lot here that's hidden, and timelines is one, not alternate timelines like that. I'm talking about like actual numbers of years.
Like a false chronology kind of thing?
Yeah, well, just
messed with.
Add on 500,000 years, and just ice ages coming and going and wiping out civilizations.
Yeah, there's no way we could know what was here. That's why there's so much. I think that's why there's so much discontinuity when we dig, archaeologically speaking.
Yeah.
Like you get pyramid, you go down 1,000 feet and there's pyramids in one place, but over here there's dinosaur bones. It doesn't make sense.
One big crazy muddle. Who knows?
If you could think of it as this is a simulation and we're in this container, right? And it runs different simulations and the cleanup routines aren't that good anymore.
So you would be able to go back then. You would be able to get that data back.
Or also just the notion of, it's like when you wipe a disk, there could be residual memory. So the concepts of reincarnation or remembering, past life memories might just be picking up data that's just accidentally encoded, residual data.
But here's the limitation. Here's the limitations. We're always in the confine of our set parameters.
Maybe we don't know that.
No, that's why you want to bump against the wall. You want to try to try to discover, not just throw your hands up. Don't know.
Oh, but obviously, wasn't that why we're
I'm not
all
saying
right
anybody
here
is doing that. I'm not saying.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm here to paint and hang out.
Yeah, you're here for the same reason.
You're here for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't my intent.
No, I understand, but yeah, I hear you. You're right. That's the thing, just to question it, and that alone is enough catalyst to get your brain going in the right way.
It is, it's all myth, metaphor, and magic.
And so I find it a hard line to dice through. I don't want to really discount any view. I will be against flat earthers and stuff like that, but then
fuck flat earthers.
But no, the thing is some people are obviously trolling and this and that, but some people, it's just a genuine, people just throw their hands up like, fuck, they don't know in a lot of things. And so you just, maybe it's a good step for a lot of people. But a lot of the things that we observe, we can see that it's not that. So, I mean,
it's good. It's good to question. And like I said, I keep on coming back to this notion of this era of fake news. There's no faith in anything. So all that you can really be sure of, or all that maybe you should try to rely or react upon or act upon, is what's immediately around you. Like, for example, there are women, and there used to be women in the 80s in Scandinavia who had signed this declaration that they weren't going to have any babies until there was a universal declaration on Earth to get rid of all the nuclear weapons. So that's a stupid way to live your life, in my opinion, because there's some things that are just out of your control. You can't, by vote or by proxy or by protest, change whether or not the probabilities exist or don't exist for a nuclear weapon to leave Moscow and hit Washington, D.C., or hit your mom's house. You know what I mean? We live in a world, some of which is under our control, some of which is not under control. And we live in a world where a lot of people are reacting to things like, is it a flat Earth? Is it a sphere Earth? Unless you can fucking fly, or unless you're an astrophysicist or a geologist, it probably has fucking fuck all to do with your day-to-day existence. It's irrelevant whether it's flat or sphere. Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw that one. No, and that's why I say I don't like any perspective is should be respected for sure. And so I posted this one guy. I forgot his name. I'll post a link to this also. But
it's hard. Also, you can also think about it that.
Just real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Finish my train of thought on this video. This guy is basically, like you said, your surroundings, right? So it is flat to us. When we walk around, it's flat. And then he was explaining, like, and then as the dreamer renders it,
I've seen
it has to be in a three-dimensional way, right? And then there's the concave where it's the dreamer, the inside. So I kind of like that. I mean, that's a way to really resolve all of it, because I feel the people that say it's flat, but just
the way to look at it is that it's both. It's both flat and it's round.
Yeah, for all practicality, like CW is saying, it's flat. You know, and
depends
it
on your
doesn't matter
perspective.
either.
I was
It doesn't matter.
a little bit like I think.
No. What you're saying, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying
Someone's
to
gonna come and clip that out and be like, CW Chanter is a flat earther. He says it right here. The Earth is flat.
No, what I think what the point is that it's whatever shape you believe it is.
I think the Earth is flat. I'm a moron.
No, it's whatever shape you believe it is.
Right.
That's good.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, look. I mean, so that's what I've come to the ultimate conclusion of you're not going to be able to also like, especially now when we're talking about these fully rendered holograms. Say you were to see the video that says, okay, here's a great example. I was recently contemplating whether or not a trial would ultimately be necessary for those 4 teenagers that were caught on film broadcasting on Facebook and LiveLeak their torturing of a mentally handicapped individual. The notion that
how do we know that was true?
But that's the next question. Don't jump ahead. Here we go. Let's go through it step by step. You say, what is the point of impaneling a jury and putting on a trial when it's an irrelevant question to ask whether or not they did it or didn't do it? We have the proof. There's videotape. There's audio-visual information suggesting or showing that the action's taking place. But now that we've entered the realm of fully renderable 3D imagery technology, now say we were to see the image of CNN were to say, we are redeemed. We are not fake news. You are the assholes. Here's the videotape of Russian prostitutes peeing in Donald Trump's mouth or vice versa, right? You can no longer trust anything. You know, then Donald Trump will say that's a hologram. Now that the holograms exist, and anyone could do it. They could do it for your side or they could do it for the other side. You know, here's Hillary Clinton busting out of Syria with babies in her arms. You know, I'm saving these babies. She's a hero. That never happened, or did it? You know what I mean?
The fake.
She was saving them for later.
Right.
The fake news meme is interesting for sure.
It's crazy.
And, I mean, that can all be tied to like a program. You know, if you look at it, the whole construct of society and everything, it's like a program, right?
Some people even say that it really is a program.
And look at that meme, the meme magic, the whole Donald Trump.
I was just going to bring that up with the cult of Cac and the Pepe.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff's really interesting, especially because it goes back to like 2008.
Yeah, and I want to offer all these up as proof of some type of simulation. You know,
it just proves that there's a magical layer to this reality that's being hidden from us or forgotten about.
And also, what does it matter? What matters more, the reality or the conception of the reality? Like, who gives a fuck about what was right or what was wrong? It's really the reality is whatever you can convince people of. As Adolf Hitler said, the big lie.
Well, just look at it this way: that okay, we live on a planet in space, right? But one of the features of this planet is that it has a consciousness-driven help system that you can connect to, and maybe sometimes it can help you out if you ask it nice or whatever.
It's called CW Chanter. Send me your money, folks.
No, it's called magic. It's called praying. Call it what you will. It's
called CW Chanter. Call it what it is. I'm the one.
It's the CW Chanter Force, the Chantergeist, the Chantergeist.
Just don't get me upset. It would be like that episode of Twilight Zone that I put as predictive programming to warn you not to anger me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like you when you're angry, especially with the gamma radiation.
That's it. You are so headed to Jack in the Box town. You're gonna be bouncing around in a shadow, bitch.
I love Jack in the Box. Who makes the Jack sauce?
I do.
You mean the Yakin sauce?
That's the first prayer of the church of CW Chanter.
Isn't it?
Who brought us the Jack sauce? CW Chanter.
I actually was a comedian who said that. It was one of his bits. Kevin Meaney, I think it was.
Back in the day. If Fractal was worried about us getting off topic, don't worry. We just brought up Kevin Meaney. You'll put your eye out.
That's not right. That's not
right.
Rolling with those tight pants on. Anyway.
Oh my God, Kevin Meaney.
No, that's the thing about the fractal universe and the computer, that nothing's off topic.
No, there you go.
And that's the thing. Let me say this too: if it is a hologram, the nature of holograms is that each part of it describes itself. So it's a self-describing thing, which also goes along with fractal. So if you think of a holographic fractal or a fractalized hologram, I don't know how it will go.
Holofractal?
Something like that. You can see how you could actually embody the entire universe inside of you, because if you are a hologram, then you would by nature have everything inside of it.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
baby doll.
Or they
I
make you
embody the
see
whole
it.
universe.
Yeah, it's like when you dream of somebody you just met. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
Or a
there's
genie.
but it, dude.
I got this theory. Maybe like we all have to, the whole world gets like run until we each experience
Hello?
everything or every set of
Yeah.
consciousness, right?
That's like a
And
complete
then
simulation theory. Like it's going to run through every iteration of DNA.
Yeah, because why
And
wouldn't
then
it then?
repeat, right?
Because
You
that,
reach
well, that breaks my
and so
simulation model. Go
well,
ahead.
what it does is it starts off chaos theory, initial sets, and it takes 1,000,000,000,000 years to run every in
our
what we
time.
call a trillion,
Or
right?
epochs.
What is
Sequence.
time, right? We've
Time's an
already
illusion.
discovered that time is, yeah, there you go.
I'll tell you this about time. Time is measured by the atomic clock, which is measured by the half-life of the cesium. What is it? 24 or 120? It's a cesium atom in the half-life, which the half-life of an atom is half the amount of time it takes for that atom to decay into its next lower orbital shell. I forgot how it works, but anyway, it's the amount of years till it's gone, essentially. And the half-life of cesium is whatever. But the point is that they measure atomic time based on something that requires time to define it.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, so it's impossible to calculate time unless you have some kind of constant, which we don't have. So,
right. Well, it's like they also say like time is relative. Like time might be a byproduct not of the physical universe but of consciousness. Because if there's no consciousness to record a moment from one moment to the next, there's no time. It's only us that put it together by reflection. The whole notion of time.
It's more the memory collection. You're
See, I don't
collecting
know.
these
I mean,
memories, bringing them together linearly. That's what creates the illusion of time.
no,
I look at it like
there was stardust first and then consciousness, so that was there, right?
Well, no,
Okay,
but no. Hold on, wait. Before we go on, and I'll give you the floor next, Thomas. Is that when we conceive of the stardust, we are observing it with the powers of our mind. We're creating in our head a conception of a reality, and therefore we are observing it. Right.
Well, we're explaining also
Before we
Earth and the
showed up.
sun.
No, before we showed up, and to consciously think about it, the stardust didn't exist because there was no one to think about it.
No, I understand line of thinking, but
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, we can kind of track back, and before there was consciousness, it seems.
But when we track back before there's consciousness, we're using our brains to observe a point in time.
So it's
when
all
we observe that's when it comes into existence.
I don't think
it's all brain simulation then.
I don't think we can actually think about what was before consciousness. I don't think we can understand that.
But we could theorize it. We could create a virtual state that we think it's an experimental simulation, right? We're creating a potential model that we think might be descriptive of what was.
But does that exercise then create that reality?
I think it does. I think that's what it would be.
I do
and
too.
Is that why we think that that shit actually happened? Woo!
I think every possibility that can be thought of, will exist at some point or does. If there's no time, it already does. So that means every idea, every possible situation exists somewhere.
Yeah. So
right now,
with the whole time thing and like every situation existing, I think of it like with machine learning programs. Machine learning programs, you give them time, which is just iterations going through the program. But they're referred to as epochs.
What if they're quantum computers? They won't have time limitations.
Well, just before, but yeah, don't go through your concept, Tom, and then we'll come back to it.
Well, it's just the whole time isn't necessarily the thing that's the measurement tool. It's like how many iterations of a pattern does it take before something happens?
Also, what's the goal? And I just want to say this too about what Fractal said about going through all the iterations of the DNA as a simulation. That's very mechanical. It's very logical. It's something an AI would do.
No, because of chaos theory, everything comes out. There's no set. There's no determination there. You know what I mean?
That we can perceive. No, there is not. But it doesn't mean it's not governed by a higher order equation that we can't conceive of, because there's an extra dimension to it that we don't know of. Just because it's, I'm not saying it's not right. I've read Gleek, so I mean, I'm familiar with it. There are other explanations other than chaos. And I know, what is the saying? Nature abhors a vacuum and entropy always wins, etc. So, I mean, I know it's going to happen.
It all comes down to fractals.
Yep. Shit. We're done.
Fractals.
We're done. We're fucking done. That's it. We're done.
All right, good. We're done.
That's it. We love you guys. Take care. We'll see you guys around.
Love you.
We're learning to stop. I think that's what we're doing as a team.
Yes.
On the CW Chanter Live Google Hangouts, we're learning. There was an earlier break where we could have done it and gone a 2-hour one, but we're gonna hone in on that when the natural lull happens. Cut the cord. It'll have time for the next one. We love you. We'll be back in about 15 or 20 minutes with a whole new concept and idea. We'll see you back here, folks.
We're coming back?
Yes, of course. Right now.
Okay.
And we're back. No, we're gone. We're going to be back. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll be back in about 20, 30 minutes. We're all going to go to the bathroom, drop some shrooms, and we'll be back with a new concept.
I wish I had some shrooms.
We're going to be talking about Omar Corona.
Cool.
Is he real? What about icicles?
How about that Sass Patel one? That one.
She's a mystery wrapped in a riddle. I have no idea.
Yeah, right.
They'd have to tell us. And if they were to tell us, could we trust they were telling us the truth?
No, fuck that. Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. We love you. We'll see you soon, guys. Check you back sometime soon. We love you. Bye-bye.